everybody! Hello Tuck, hello Mark Hunter. We're doing vampire today as Goober. Yeah, I'm not sure why the commands aren't working. They're supposed to be like lurk and unlurk. It's 4:30. Oh hey, it works now. Maybe it takes a while to join. Yeah, suck works! Now everyone can suck along! Suck along to the vampire sucking. Yeah, so I added this suck command. So basically, whenever you do suck, I think it's like a 5-minute cooldown or something like that. Or is it like 15 minutes? I don't remember. I think the cooldown is just broken. But yeah, you can do suck, and then it's like a global suck. You can see how many times people have sucked. Alright, so today we're doing Vampire the Masquerade Parliament of Knives again. But we're doing it as Goober model. So the lip motion's not so good on Goober model as the regular model, because regular model has like V-bridger. This one doesn't. Pop, 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 pop. But we can still read, and we will still get into the thick of things. So the last time we left off, we basically found out that we're adopted, and we decided to kill our parents. Well, not necessarily our parents, but like we decided to go against the government, the vampire government, basically. Hello, elite trainer, welcome. Nice, you have 94% skibidi get rids. Nice. Alright. So, and then, oh yeah, we tried to attack the place, and then when we went back on the way home, we got attacked ourselves, so we were like, oh my god. And then now I guess we're just lying low, because we have switched sides, basically. Chapter 8, Scrutiny. So I'm not sure if I can finish it today, because I don't know if my voice will last, but we'll see. You've lost count of the number of times your fellow kindred have cracked jokes about sleeping like the dead, but when you wake as the sun sets, you feel like the idiom easily defines the day's dreamless passage. If you didn't know any better, you'd think only minutes had gone by, even though you can feel the physical effects of your slumber renewing your body as you rise. You swing your feet out from your bed and stand, stretching out the muscles in your back with an uncomfortable snapping and popping. Maybe you're wrong and you did dream, because if you didn't, that means you really did attack Elysium alongside 𝑺𝒐𝒄𝒊𝒕� gang of anarchs. Somehow it doesn't quite seem real, even though you know in your heart that it's true. Gerard greets you from behind his desk after you leave the bedroom. Good evening, ma'am. It's easy to see in his face that he's deeply disturbed. I don't think I quite realized the gravity of your excursion last night, he says. Roaming the city with the anarchs is bad enough, but if you get placed at the scene of the attack last night, you didn't tell me you blew up Elysium, and Miss Gray is missing as well. I got the report this morning, and there's gonna be hell to pay for this, Briar. You choke off an angry rebuke. Gerard's been a good servant for too long for you to retaliate in a way you might immediately regret. But somehow it's his long-standing personal loyalty that makes the chastisement sting all the more. Things may have gotten out of hand, you admit. I'll deal with it. The ghoul seems to have regained some of his composure after the outburst. Of course, ma'am. I'll assist you in any way I can. But unfortunately, there's little time for that. What's happened now? The sheriff has called on you to join him at what remains of Elysium for an investigation. I don't think you're officially a person of interest yet. But if you don't show, he'll put the picture together quickly. I recommend you attend at your earliest convenience. We're really anarchs now? I guess we are. We just switch sides just immediately. Hello, where will the adventures of the vampires take us tonight? With no idea. Oh wow! 𝒔𝒂𝒏𝒂𝒍𝒔 is at 108. Nice. I think the maximum is actually 110, which somebody got already. I think it was Mr. Du Bois, maybe. Alright. You've only just left the comfort of your haven when you feel the call of a deep, visceral need echoing throughout your undead body. You should head to Elysium as soon as you can, but even in such dire circumstances, you can't ignore your vampiric nature. You should feed while you still have the chance. Where do you plan to sate your cravings? You're back again. Welcome back! This kid does things. Welcome. You know what? We'll just go to the park. We'll do it lickety-splickety, no seducing. You stroll up Elgin Street, passing beside benches and well-tended trees as you take in the sights and sounds of the park. It's been years since you've spent time hunting here, and it feels good to be back. Comforting somehow. One of the few memories of your first month as a vampire not shrouded by fog is of Corliss taking you here for your first hunt. To say it was exhilarating would be an understatement, and left an imprint on your undead psyche that bursts up like a weed as soon as you soak in your surroundings. You walk through the main entrance and pass by the central fountain. It's quiet during these chill winter months, but when you stalked your first mortal, it had been bubbling and splashing away just loud enough to muffle the struggle as you dragged the unwilling man into the northwest corner of the park and fed ravenously behind a row of empty benches. If Corliss hadn't been present to stop you from draining him dry, the night might have ended with a very different exercise. But fortunately for both you and your victim, body disposal was a lesson to be learned at a later date. One of the most attractive things about Confederation Park as a feeding ground is its location, central to the most notable kindred locations in Ottawa, an easy walk from Parliament Hill and the luxurious offices and living spaces enjoyed by the native vampiric population. Feeding here is limited to the upper classes, Primogen and their immediate childer, friends of the prince and seneschal, and so forth, as most of these kindred are typically interested in stocking a finer breed of meat. The park goes largely unharvested, a boon to you as the local population has no reason to raise their guard. A field of unconcerned sheep leaves the wolf with easy pickings after all. Also, hello everybody in chat. Oh wait, I already said hello. I just thought it was new people, but it's just the same people. But thank you guys for being here anyway. Okay, so let's see. Do we get the old man or ideal meal? Oh, is that a One Piece reference? I don't watch One Piece. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm gonna maybe wait. You know what? We'll talk to the old man. He could give us advice, and we could give him the suck. You can almost hear the gurgling fountain from all those years ago, but this time you stalk through a silent gloom, gliding through the elderly gentleman like an angel of death. He doesn't raise his head as you approach, but a twitching in his gnarled right hand betrays him. He knows you're here. Have you come to take me, then? The old man asked suddenly. His ragged voice sounds tired and world-weary, like he's seen one too many winters. I've been coming here for almost a year since you took Samantha, waiting for you to come back and take me too. He tilts his head back and pulls a cloth cap from his balding forehead, clutching it to his chest. Have mercy on me, Spectre. Take me to my wife. You're caught off guard. Far from giving you the nostalgic hunt you craved, this mortal is greeting you as though he knows your business quite well. You once heard it said that those with one foot in the grave could sometimes sense undeath, your lack of a beating heart, and the reek of your damnation. But such tales are often impossible to verify, in theory, anyway. Will you say nothing? The old man says, peering up at you. I'm ready. I've made my peace. Just make it quick. You just say random things? Okay, just don't spam too much if that's possible. You should feed soon. Okay, so I need Should I kill him? I shouldn't kill him. Is there a humanity thing? Mm, I don't know. I'm been cordial so far. I could talk to him. Uh, Why do you want to die? Did your wife pass? The old man seems confused. Are you not the same angel of death? How could you forget Samantha? Her soul would have lit you like a beacon as you ascended to the heavens. There are many of us, you say cautiously. It's better that he doesn't understand your true nature. No one will believe an old man ranting about a close call with the Grim Reaper, but if he started ranting about vampires. But I'm sure you'll meet your wife soon enough. It's not that I want to die, he says. I don't. But if this is the only way to ease the loneliness, then I'm willing to accept it. Well, I'm not an angel of death, but I can offer you a temporary release from your pain. I cannot grant you the release of death just yet, you say carefully, but I can offer you a temporary release from your pain. A single fat tear drips from the old man's right eye. Go ahead then. Whatever malady you wish to afflict upon me will only bring me one step closer to her. I accept your judgment. He leans his head down, staring at the ground as you approach. You pull his head slightly to the side, exposing his neck. He lets out a weak cry when your fangs slip in gently, but in the moments after, you feel his muscles relax as he falls into the entrance of the kiss. When you're finished, his heart is still beating strongly. There's much left in him yet. You wonder how many more years it will be until he's reunited with his wife. Your appetite largely sated for the moment, you decide to move on, always aware there's a hunger for more that you can never fully extinguish. The road outside the Elysium is cordoned off with reams of yellow and black police tape, and a small herd of mortals have crowded around at regular intervals, talking among themselves as they speculate about what might have happened late last night. A quick glance up the building's mirrored face confirms what you already knew. The windows of the Elysian floor have been blown out, and the pavement is littered with a liberal peppering of broken glass. On closer examination, you don't remember this much damage showing on the outside of the building last night. As something changed after you drove off with Ward. You spot Key at the front door giving orders to one of his officers as he ties his long dark hair back in a ponytail. It's almost enough to make you gawk. You don't think you've ever seen the sheriff do such a thing, but you manage to keep from embarrassing yourself. For years, you've heard the rumors of unnatural scarring on Key's neck, evidence of what remains of his Nosferatu curse. But on closer examination, you're disappointed to find a tightly wrapped black scarf hiding any offending marks that might have otherwise been on display. You can't help but appreciate his appearance. The standard Nosferatu disfigurements are utterly distasteful to your Toreador aesthetics. The sheriff may not be overly fashionable, but he's not ugly either. Every time you look at him, you can't help but wonder what his trick is. Before you can approach the sheriff, a vaguely familiar voice grabs your attention. It takes you a moment before you can pull the name from memories you'd hoped to leave good and buried. It's Gorski, the Toreador you'd met during Alicia's ill-fated exhibition. The man hustles up at you, a rancid air of self-importance following on his heels. Can you believe they won't let me in? He asks with a huff. Elysium belongs to all kindred in the city, not only the Primogen. This is a special investigation, Gorski. I'm sure more information will be available. In the meantime, I'll ask you to step back and let the sheriff do his job. Gorski doesn't try to hide the annoyance from his face. You're not sure he'd be capable of that level of deception if he tried. How the man has survived this long in the kindred world is a mystery. A special investigation should be carried out by professionals, he says. I think you'll find that I am quite talented in the art of inquest. You have to speak to Key about that, you reply. But you might want to wait. If you go after him the way you're talking to me, he's likely to bite your head off. Point taken, he clears his throat. Were you able to speak with your sire since the exhibition regarding my audience? Ah, so that's what this is really about. Of course, you never really had any intention of putting a good word in with Corliss. You assumed he already understood that, but apparently hope springs eternal. I'll just be honest. You should move on from the foolishness. If Corliss wished to see you, she would have done so, and pestering her would make her annoyed, and you do not want to make her annoyed. Pestering? Gorski sputters. How dare you speak to me in such a way? He grits his teeth and slowly asserts control over his emotions. He fiddles with his lapel nervously. I dearly hope she reconsiders. It's unlikely, you say, but I wish you the best. Yes, he says, of course. He inclines his head and takes a step out of your way, his gaze drifting over to Elysium. Perhaps none of this is worth the bother, he mutters, more to himself than to you. I could rule like a king in a smaller city. He drifts away, dismissing you from his thoughts entirely. You shake your head. Such a man left unopposed would make a petty tyrant indeed. Well, he'll be someone else's problem at any rate. You doubt you'll ever find yourself lower on the food chain than him. Enough distractions. You make your way to Elysium, eager to be about your business before the crime scene bones have been entirely picked over. Briar. He greets you as you approach the front door. He lowers his voice and waves you inside where you won't be overheard by mortal ears. We've evacuated every floor of the building and kept the crime scene clear of interference. I have a few questions for you before we head up, though. You probably won't be surprised at their direction. He pauses and watches for a reaction. You try not to give him anything to work with. So tell me, where were you last night while the rest of us were driving our uninvited guests out of the sewers? I was attacked by the annex where I was feeding. Kind of half-truth. If I didn't know any better, I'd start to think you're doing something to attract their attention, he says. She looks more disturbed than angry by your response. Any other night, and I looked into getting you in a protective detail, but you're gonna have to take care of yourself for the time being. How did you fight them off? You think quickly and do your best to look embarrassed. I ran. I was lucky Ward wasn't there himself. From what I heard, he's surprisingly light on his feet for someone so big. He seems mollified by your excuse, but you have no way of knowing if he really believes you. And what about Jordan? She didn't show either. We were hunting together with... wait, I should... You know what, I'll just say I didn't know where she was. I assumed she was with you, but I'm sure she had a good reason. He scowls. Both of you need to realize that we're in a state of emergency here, and I shouldn't need to coddle you like fledglings. Jordan's always been reluctant to fight, but her abilities would have been useful down there. They might have even saved the lives of some of my mercenaries. I'm sorry, you say, hoping it comes off as genuine. It's been a difficult week. Better for the sheriff to merely think of you as incompetent, rather as a traitor who assaulted Elysium. We don't believe Kashif made it, he asks, almost as an afterthought, but he went out doing what he loved, fighting Tremere. Sounds like the Tremere put up quite a fight. His eyes narrow. They wouldn't have put up much of a fight if you showed up as if you were commanded. If I didn't think Corliss would throw a fit, you'd be sanctioned in. He cuts himself off mid-sentence. Never mind, it doesn't matter. You're here now and maybe you can do some good. Help us figure out what happened last night. I managed to smuggle Bukad up there through a service entrance. He and Vivian joined my people on a sweep. And Lucas should be just about done checking the surveillance footage. Vivian's here. You are surprised. It's been a while since you've seen the Primogen. She seemed largely recovered when you saw her at the council after her crucifixion, but you hadn't expected her to be here, sifting through the remnants of a terrorist attack on Elysium. I was as surprised as you are, he admits. But I shouldn't have been. She's always had an uncanny insight into everything going on in the city, even when she has no means or business to know about it. I couldn't exactly deny her. She's a Primogen, and she has as much of a right to attend Elysium as any other kindred. That, and you didn't want her to cause a scene, Luca cuts in, emerging from a small unmarked door behind the security desk. Nothing unusual on the recordings, she says, but there was evidence of remote tampering. Whoever it was covered their tracks well. If enough time, I might be able to track down an approximate location, but they'll have moved on by then. You just about sighed with relief. Ward said he dealt with the security feeds, but in the chaos of the moment, he had nearly forgotten about the possibility of being caught on camera. Of course, he grumbles, scratching the scarf at his neck absently. I'm going to head upstairs. If either of you find anything interesting, let me know. Mm. Uptime. Yeah, uptime. Oh wait, it thinks I streamed for 18 hours. That's so funny. Uptime does not work correctly. Oh well, I'll remove it later. Um, which one should I do? I could either look at the security room. Actually, I should check my stats. Charisma manipulation is really high. I think if I go to the security room, it's probably like intelligence, which I don't really have. So I think what I can do is I can interview the residents and pretend to manipulate them to say, "Oh, you actually didn't see anything." Almost 19 hours. Great job. Yeah. We did some interviews with the ones who were here when we first arrived, he says. But people arrive and leave all the time. Might be some fresh meat with new info. He shrugs. Why not? Go for it. Then meet us upstairs when you're done. Luca jogs over to catch the elevator with Key. Glad to see you here, Briar. She flashes you a quick smile. Business before pleasure as always, and you can tell that she's happy to see you. You step back outside into the brisk Ottawa winter. As the night grows long and the temperature drops, the crowd has begun to thin out significantly. But there are still a few onlookers. You almost immediately rule out the mortals who seem more interested in socializing than the scene itself. Lonely souls always find a way to drift into the orbit of spectacles like this, desperate for human contact. They're unlikely to have seen anything interesting, and they're more likely to talk your ear off with manufactured stories just to keep you listening. No, what you're looking for is someone like the middle-aged woman on the other side of the street, staring wistfully up at the side of the building, searching the Elysium floor with an almost animal-like desperation. You approach the woman slowly, so as not to startle her. She smells of cigarettes and cheap perfume, and it doesn't look like she's brushed her hair for several days. Despite what her slovenly appearance might suggest, she has shrewd and intelligent eyes, which immediately snap to you and don't let go once they've latched on. I know you, she says. Are you certain? You reply. I don't believe I've had the pleasure. He laughs. Oh, I'm quite certain. You are regular. She points a jittery finger up toward Elysium. Her skin is white with the cold, and you wonder why she's not wearing gloves. She's no kindred. The weather simply doesn't affect dead flesh that way, and a flush in her cheeks would be difficult to properly replicate in a way that other kindred couldn't detect, though not impossible. Who is she, then? And when did you meet her before? You're drawn to this place. I can see it in the way you watch the building. Tell me, what's your history? She smiles wistfully. I wasted quite a bit of my youth here. I'm Mare. I used to be one of Corliss's special friends a while back. You're taken aback. And you still remember everything. I thought. She laughs and takes a long drag of a cigarette. Never let any of them tell you that their hocus pocus is infallible. I forgot for a while, but it slowly came back to me over time. Don't worry, I haven't talked, and I have no intention to say a word. People already think I'm a kook. They wouldn't listen even if I cared to tell them, and I don't. So why are you here? You ask bluntly. As interesting as this woman is, you need to join Key and Luca upstairs soon. You'll need to be careful with her. She may have seen you last night, and if she did, you need to be certain that she's not going to talk to Key and come here fairly often. It's not what you think. As far as I'm concerned, it's a lovely memory, and I'm glad to have it. There was a splendor and an excitement up there that my world can't hope to match. I got old, lonely, so now I like to remember. I was around the corner when the explosion happened. It was surprisingly subtle, and at first it was nowhere near this much damage. She gestures up the face of the building. There were metal shutters on the walls of our one special floor. They held in whatever happened, but after a few hours, they opened again, and all the glass rained down on the sidewalk. And you saw all this? You're sure about what you're telling me? As sure as I am about anything else, Mare says, tapping her head. You folks have a way of making us doubt ourselves, though. I knew that coming back during the day was pointless, so I waited until after nightfall. A silly thing to do, but here I am, fascinated as ever. I figured that if I couldn't be a part of your world anymore, at least I could watch from the outside. Did you recognize any of the people who may have been involved in the attack? Mary hesitates. I did, but I want something in return for telling you. The more I talk to you, the more I need it. Please let me feel the kiss one more time. I'll consider it, you say. You know something you need, and you need to keep her talking, but only after I'm done here. Now tell me if you recognize anyone who was here during the attack. Yes, I did. I couldn't tell you for sure if he was involved, but he certainly left in quite a hurry after all the commotion. Mr. Ward was always a brash man, acting without thinking. I remember this one time Corliss had me over for dinner, and he burst into her chamber like a bull. Ruined the moment completely. Ward? You ask, wanting to make absolutely sure. Robert Ward. Of course, Mary says, unless there's another Mr. Ward in your world. I think she called him Bobby once. Damn, you need to think fast. She might not have seen you, but it's concerning that she can identify Ward. Which... I'll bring her to the sheriff. I think people would have found out that it's Mr. Ward already. And it's also a masquerade bitch. But what am I doing? I'm technically an anarch. I don't want to kill the lady. But if I bring her, they'll kill the lady. I'll threaten her. This place is very dangerous. You need to stay away or something very bad will happen to you. But it's always been dangerous, Mary says. I know that and I accept it. There's more to it than there used to be, you say, taking the risk of giving her just enough truth to drive her away. Government agencies have gotten involved. Military, militias, even the church. And they don't care who they have to hurt or kill to get to us. You have family. She nods. My mom and my sister. Why? What do they have to do with... If these people figure out that you've had contact with us, they'll use your family against you. They'll take everything away. They'll take away everything you love until you tell them what you know about us. And once you told them everything, they'll kill you anyway. They'd view you as a traitor to the human race. There's a war going on beneath the surface, Mary, and you don't want to get involved. Stay away, if not for your own sake, and for your family's. You've editorialized a bit, but she won't have any way of knowing that. Mary's face blanches, and the cigarette falls from her lips, forgotten. You sound like you're actually scared of these people, she whispers. How could humans possibly scare you? You're like gods. Think hard about how awful they must be in order to scare us, you say, and ask yourself if you want to put your family in their crosshairs. I think... She stutters. Thank you for telling me. She looks back and forth, studying every person crowding around the building. I'm going home. Don't come back here, Mary. I won't, she says. Thank you for telling me. Can't be easy for you to admit being afraid of anything. She lowers her eyes to the pavement and steps away, finally noticing her dropped cigarette. She pulls a fresh one from the pack and puts it to her trembling lips. She forgets to light it. Instead, she scurries away and walks briskly to the south, away from Elysium. You watch her go until she rounds her corner 2 blocks down. She doesn't look back once. Confident that you've handled the situation as best as you could, you return to Elysium. The elevator chimes a polite musical tone as the doors crack open, revealing the charred and remains of Elysium, chased by the stench of burnt flesh. You step out into the wreckage, Wait, why am I Oh wait, no, that's just OBS, sorry. Momentarily distressed, as the heel of your boot breaks through a layer of blackened crust, sinking into something that squelches loudly enough for you to hear it over the sound of the investigators coordinating as they pick through the crime scene. Charred bodies have been stacked to either side of the elevator like heaps of firewood. Key's people must have had to move them to get inside. You think for a moment, trying to wrap your mind around the scene. All these dead kind. There must have been a rush for the elevator, but they were caught in the blast before the doors opened. Where had they been hidden? The last you saw of this place, the Anarchs had slaughtered the last of the kindred. Were their mortal chattel hiding, waiting for the raiders to leave before running for the elevator? Such wasteful death. Briar, Luca calls you from one of the discreet feeding rooms to the right of the main hall. Come here for a sec. You follow her voice and brushes aside the charred and twisted strands of what used to be reflective metal beads, obscuring the going-ons within the intimate nook. You seeing what I'm seeing here? She steps back, revealing a body that missed the brunt of the blast. His chest is riddled with ragged puncture wounds. Either the killer got extremely carried away with a large knife, or this is the work of a vampire's claws. Whoever did this wasn't just killing. They tore up the body in a rage. Seems a bit excessive, even for a mad bomber. Don't you see, Luca says. It was one of Ward's gangrel. The ferals can grow claws, and I've never seen another clan of kindred closer to their beasts. A vaguely familiar voice catches you off guard from just outside the nook. Briar, I'd like to speak with you in private. Damn, Adeline's arrived. You don't have much choice but to do as she asks. Luca cocks her head to the side and you mouth the word Archon. She flinches slightly before catching herself and nodding, then turns back and busies herself examining the corpse. Adeline taps her foot impatiently as you sweep aside the melted beadwork and join her in the hall. The Archon is nearly swallowed up by a well-worn olive green military jacket and a dark pork pie hat, snugged tightly on her head. If you didn't know any better, you'd think she was an eccentric mortal who arrived in Elysium completely by accident. Those piercing eyes, though, there's no mistaking the power behind them. What can I do for you, you ask? A voice in the back of your head screams that she knows. She must know. You shove the fear aside. Right now, panic is your most deadly enemy, and you can't give in to its insistent clamor. Come with me, she says, not waiting on a response, before turning her back and leading you through Elysium's myriad social areas. Eventually, turning down a smaller hallway meant for the staff, she stops right outside the room Alicia had been holed up in. At least half of the hall has been reduced to stumps of charred wood and rubble slashed with coarse rebar, scorched black in the blast. This is where they set the primary charges, she says. Even if I couldn't smell the semtex, the conclusion is obvious. She rolls the melted husk of a desktop computer tower over her foot. The motherboard and memory modules have been reduced to slag. Tell me, why is your sire not overseeing this investigation? The question is not what you expected, and it catches you by surprise. I'll just defend her, I guess. She usually leads by delegations. She's probably coordinating the efforts from her office right now. A proper prince would be here overseeing the investigation of such an attack personally. In past nights, my masters and I would be inclined to allow local camarilla to govern their cities as they see fit, but these are extraordinary times. We cannot suffer blatant masquerade violations in the era of the Second Inquisition. She straightens her unusual hat until it rests in perfect symmetry above her brow. Something must be done, but I have no interest in change for the sake of change. I need to know that the decisions I make will breed the desired effect. You wonder where she's going with this and why she is telling you, of all people. You've had an interesting few weeks, Briar, she says after a lengthy silence, and your nightly activities have raised more than a few eyebrows. She turns her back on you and crouches down by the burnt-out desktop PC, fingers wriggling in the exposed wiring until they detach a small hard drive hidden deep within the chassis. She turns it over in her hands before pocketing it with a self-satisfied smirk. There is very little hidden beneath the surface that I can't discover. You take a nervous step backward, eyes sweeping the room for escape points. It's an instinctual reaction to a casual threat leveled at you by a vampire of such immense power. If Adeline notices, she makes no comment on it. So let's cut through the bullshit. The aggressive shift in demeanor startles you, which was likely its intended effect. I don't care who you plot with or why. Your personal struggles are too far beneath my interests to be of any significance. What I do care about is putting a lid on these masquerade breaches before you idiots bring the mortal intelligence agencies down on your heads. They'll burn the capital to the ground, and I refuse to be destroyed in this place. Do you hear me? Her eyes blaze fire, and for a moment you feel as though you're being consumed in their flickering flames. So tell me what you've learned and make me believe you. Forcing information through compulsion is an ugly and imprecise business prone to failure. I'd rather secure your cooperation so we can get through this together without leaving you as a simpering sack of flesh and misfiring brain matter. Rattle nerves aside, the Archon is presenting you with a rare opportunity. Whatever you tell her could help redirect her investigations or even take down a powerful player. Of course, if she doesn't believe you, things could get ugly very fast. I don't care about Corliss anymore, considering she adopted me. And she forcefully adopted, she killed our vampire mom, our real vampire mom. Like, adoption is fine, but if you're being adopted by the murderer, that's kind of messed up. Okay, so let's see. Robert Ward. I kind of don't think that the Anarchs did it, you know, because it seems like after the Anarchs ran off, then something else happened. So I'm not entirely sure. You know what? No, I'll take a moment to think before speaking. Briar, the Archon snaps her fingers at you. I appreciate that the question requires some serious thought, but I'm not well known for my patience. I know you've been involved in at least surface level investigations, and you'll tell me what you learned or this will start to become significantly less pleasant. I feel like I want to say the fourth one about the Goober model. Yeah, Goober model. I kind of want to just tell her that Corliss drained an elder. But the first one seems important as well. Think before so you select. Yeah, like the first one seems important. But the fourth one also seems very important, and I'm kind of more inclined to go with the fourth one, because that's the thing I have major issue with. She murdered our vampire mom. I'm gonna tell her that. Recover the memory, the Archon says. You can tell that she's skeptical before even begun, assuming for the moment that you're telling me what you truly believe is the case. How do you know you can trust a mind that's already been tampered with? What you found could be a false memory implanted just as easily as a real one suppressed. Alright. I'm not gonna name Jordan because I think that will break it, but I'll say like it was too detailed to be fake. When a memory is suppressed and another one laid over it to close the gap, the resulting memory does tend to be vague. Adeline says, unless it's crafted by a master with centuries of study, even elders can struggle with thoroughly convincing imprints that withstand intense scrutiny. I'll hear you out. Just don't take too long. There are more important matters to discuss. I was on a floor in a high-rise building watching two kindred arguing. There was a body beside me. I believe it might have been my first kill. I think they were a partner I had when I was mortal. It was hard to focus on the body, like that part of my memory is still repressed. At first, I wasn't sure who it was that I was watching, but when I looked closer, I was sure one of them was Corliss. Judging by what they were wearing, it could have been the 1960s, maybe early 70s. And the person she was arguing with? Adeline says, did you get a name? What were they debating? I have no idea what they were saying. I think I'd been in shock at the time and the words didn't register until things came into focus a few minutes later. But the other kindred? Grace. I think her name was Grace. The Archon's eyes widened. Do you have any idea who that was? I believe I do. Go on, child. Continue your story. I'm telling the truth. Corliss pulled a gun and shot Grace twice. Corliss thought she was destroyed after shooting her and stepped over the body, but Grace was only waiting for her to make a mistake. She stabbed Corliss and they struggled for several minutes while I was trying to crawl away. By the time I looked back, Corliss had Grace subdued and was drinking from her neck. She didn't stop until Grace's body was dry. Adeline goes still. You're certain of this? You nod. It was visceral, clear as if it happened yesterday. Arundel found her right after she'd finished. Prince found her like that. The Archon mumbled something, thinking aloud. No, if this was the 1960s, he wouldn't have been in Ottawa yet. Toronto. How could you have known? Go on, tell me the rest. Hello again, Goober Mare. Hello, Moon. Arundel was furious, like she couldn't believe what she had done. As well as he should have been, Adeline says. She flips open a notebook and jots something down quickly. It's not English, nor is it any language you have ever encountered before. A code of some kind. I can see why they wiped this from your memory, she says, shoving the pad back into her pocket roughly. But what I can't understand is why Arundel included a trigger to bring it back. A trigger, you ask? Jordan's mental probe brought this back. Better not let her in on what you already know. She seems surprisingly keen on educating you in a moment. Adeline shakes her head. No, it was only a trigger. If Arundel wanted this hidden, he would have either have destroyed you or rewritten your mind until the memory was a soup of unintelligible gibberish. He wanted you to remember this, but only under certain conditions, like if he were to go missing. Are you saying that I'm some kind of dead man switch that was activated on his destruction? Insurance in case Corliss double-crossed him, Adeline says. It sounds like something he'd do, but I still doubt that Eden would dare to outright destroy the prince. If she's actually responsible, he must be hidden somewhere so she could use him as a bargaining chip or as a bludgeon. Hello, Mr. Du Bois. Welcome. We're reading today. Who was Grace anyway? I kinda just wanna know who our true vampire mom is. I know Diablo is taken seriously by the Camarilla, but we all know what happens. Grace must have been an important kindred. I got an achievement. I discovered the truth about my past. She was what I'd call a kingmaker, Adeline says. Relatively unknown outside elite kindred circles and never the outward face of power, but she knew secrets. Powerful secrets. The shadow of Grace 𝒖💧 has kept certain kindred in power for over half a century. She had allies in high places, especially here in Canada. Were I to hazard a guess, I'd wager that Grace knew something about Eden that kept her under tight control. An argument ensued, and Eden was monumentally lucky. This information will be incredibly useful to me. So if it came out that Corliss drained Grace, Eden would have to flee the continent, and even then she might not be safe, Adeline says. But I thought you were only here to investigate the masquerade breaches. Why go after Corliss? The Archon's patience seems to be wearing thin. Do I owe you an explanation for my every action? Consider yourself lucky that I have no interest in keeping Eden in power. Tell the story to the wrong lick, and you disappear in an instant, never to be found. So keep your mouth shut and don't mention these memories to anyone. Am I understood? You have little choice but to comply. Picking a fight with an Archon is a fight you won't win. Is there anything else you tell the Archon? Oh, nice. Mr. Du Bois has 103 skibidi. Very high skibidi. Oh yeah, I can tell her the first thing. The Archon sucks in a sharp breath, one of the few mortal reactions you've seen from her. Your discovery definitely caught her off guard. You're certain of this? She asked before getting a hold of herself. That information hasn't shown up in my inquiries yet. Were you able to uncover any additional details? I'll just tell her about what Gerard found. On the surface, it seems unlikely that Alicia would deal with Ward and his cohorts, Adeline says, but she's been at the epicenter of both bombings, and now we know that she owned the building where Ward was first found. One link would be a coincidence, two are possible, but unlikely. 3, I believe I'll need to have a word with Miss Grey, assuming she wasn't eliminated in the blast. Is there anything else you wish to tell the Archon? Ward and Arundel were very close. I've heard the rumors, of course. Also, I got an achievement for being Archon's pet. The Archon says rumor enough that it's been difficult sorting truth from fable. Perhaps you've heard one of the more popular tales. It's whispered that Robert Ward and the prince were romantically involved and that it drove your sire into a fury. I'll admit that it's hard for me to imagine Eden so incensed over something as mundane as physical affection. But one can never know for sure. Mortals are herd animals, and as much as we kindred attempt to deny it, much of our humanity remains intact, holding back the beast. It sounds like you've done your research. Do you believe that Robert and Arida were lovers before he fled the city to become an anarch? I believe they were lovers or intimate on other more intellectual levels. They definitely seem like best bros. Adeline muses, hand cupping her chin in thought. The possibility of connection there might be worth investigating further then. Vivian Mayer is very weird. That's a vague assertion, the Archon says. Are you suggesting she wasn't actually crucified? No, you shake your head. You shake your head. I saw it with my own eyes. I was there when he discovered her hanging there. So you believe she's taking advantage of the attack then? I couldn't say I blame her. Had I been beaten into torpor and hung from my own wall, I wanted to lay low for a while too. He claims she lost her memory even before the attack, but immediately afterward she was perfectly fine. If I had to guess, I'd say it was posturing. The Archon says, I would have thought you understood kindred better than this child. Alright, fine. She was already caught in a moment of weakness. Any elder with their salt would do everything in their power to dispel an aura of failure as quickly as possible through a credible bluff. Let's move on from this. Well, can't think of anything else. Then consider yourself dismissed. She waves you away with an offhand gesture. When you're finally clear of the dilapidated office room, you heave a sigh of relief. You continue searching through the remains of Elysium for over an hour, but other than a few charred corpses hidden beneath collapsed walls, you find nothing of note. You're just about ready to leave when Luca waves you over to the back of the burned-out Elysium suite, overlooking a surprisingly intact floor-to-ceiling window. Her clothes have been slathered in an obscene amount of hardened red blood. And you catch yourself wondering just how many other deaths she investigated as closely as the bodies she found slashed to ribbons by sharp claws. You know, I was actually excited to come back here, she says. Her voice is low. She doesn't want it to carry to the others. You move in closer so you can hear. It's Canada, I mean, not Elysium. But ever since I got here, it's all been falling apart. You don't think that my being here somehow influenced it? That I cursed the city? We're vampires, after all. A genuine curse isn't exactly out of the realms of possibility. She waves the question off before you can answer. I know it's stupid. You don't have to tell me. Everyone plays the lead role in their own head. I'm no more to blame for this than you are. Her eyes dart over to meet yours, and just as quickly as they're back on the window, looking out over the cityscape. Of course you're not to blame, you say, hoping to soothe her. Something more is going on here than she's willing to say to your face. We both know that you were underground with the rest of the hunt when this happened last night. That's true, she says quietly. But where were you? There it is, the million-dollar question that you should have seen coming a mile away, and you walked right into it. Ward tried to recruit me again. Half true. I resisted, but this time he and his goons didn't let me go without a fight. Lucas stifles a growl. That idiot doesn't know how to take no for an answer, does he? What did he do? Send the Pharaoh Halberg after you again? You shake your head. You might as well keep some of the truth in there. He sent a mortal in a car to waylay me on my way to the hunt. He wanted me to get into the back seat so he could drive me to Ward. You're not trying to tell me that a single mortal kept you away from the hunt, are you? Of course not. When I refused, Ward got out of the back seat and tried to give me an offer I couldn't refuse. What did you do? You shrugged, as if the simplest thing in the world. I refused. Managed to get away into a public space with witnesses, but he stalked me for half an hour before I gave him the slip. Smart to use the public like that, Luca says with a slow nod. Even Ward's not stupid enough to slam you right through a wall in front of a gaggle of mortals. He didn't give me much of a choice, you say, pleased that she's bought into your story. Unfortunately, I didn't exactly have the time to find out what he really wants. That's frustrating, Luca says, but we may have a solution. She scratches her cheek idly, and small flakes of dry blood drift to the floor from underneath her fingernails. Archon Adeline has been working with Key to find the Anarch's hideout. War changes his meetup spots regularly, but any operation of this size needs to be working from a command post. The last thing any of us wants is for you to be caught in the crossfire, especially with the Archon closely involved. You remember what Ward said before you joined him on the Elysium raid. If the shit hits the fan, you should come to the parking lot you met at before the assault. He said the Anarchs had it under surveillance, probably a ghoul or mortal ally that would inform him you're looking for a meet. Should you go and warn him? If you don't act quickly, it could be too late to save Ward, 𝒂𝒃, and the others from execution. How important are they to you? They are ideals. 𝒂𝒏𝒄 must see your mind wandering and she grabs your attention. This is serious, Briar. If you see his foot soldiers on the street, you turn the other way. He sends a car, you send them packing. It's important to me that you stay away from this. I don't want you to get hurt. Ward does have important information about... Wait, I think that's the only important information, though, I feel. But I'm gonna level with you guys, and I'm gonna just say that, like, I know I joined in on the bombing and all. Well, not really bombing, but the attack and all on the Elysium. But I'm not interested in being destroyed. So I'll just say, I'll stay away. I'm not gonna warn them. Like, I'll just say it was not safe for me to warn them, if that's possible. Is that confusion you see in Luca's expression? Whatever it was, it's gone in less than a second as her face breaks out in a smile. I know you do your best, Luca says. He's tenacious, but he has to give up sooner or later. She grabs her hand and gives it a squeeze. Excuse me a moment. I need to go over one of the bodies I looked at earlier. I think I may have pieced something together. She steps away and starts down the hall. You stand by the window looking out over Ottawa as Luca leaves you on your own again. Several minutes later, you rejoin the search, but your heart's just not in it. Not that you want to find anything anyway. You'd only incriminate yourself or your fellow conspirators. When Key finally calls the investigation to a close, you feel a relief. At least, until you remember, you have an important decision to make. Do I really need to? Can't I just go home and forget about everything? Alright. Oh yeah, they will narc on me, right? But at the same time, I don't want to warn them because I'm not quite committed enough to risk my own safety for their benefit. But I think they'll narc on me. I'm gonna check. Right. Oh wait, I did promise. I did do I'm not gonna do it. I made a promise to Luca. You know what? Maybe you shouldn't go off running to warn Ward after all. You were never meant for the life of a revolutionary. At least not one that accomplishes social change by such drastic means. The Anarchs will simply have to deal with Archon Adeline's tightening net on their own. It's not long before Luca approaches you again. Most of the kindred have already left while you were lost in thought, leaving the two of you as the only vampires in a sea of industrious mortals scrubbing the crime scene clean. I figured you'd have somewhere to be, Luca says pointedly. You shake your head. I had some plans, but I decided to cancel. It's been a rough night already. I thought I might just go home and keep my head down for a while. Not a bad decision, Luca says. I was worried you might have gotten in over your head. You don't give voice to the obvious question, but your body language gives it away. Does she know what you were thinking? There you considered warning Ward. I had to see how you respond, she says. I'm glad you stuck with me. Now I know I can trust you. Trust me with what? I want you to come home with me tonight. Are we getting the vampire physical, how do you say? Okay, wait, I'll ask her if she's sure. Policing a mass murder site isn't exactly the best prelude to a romantic evening. Luca's eyes flash with raw emotion, and you're not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Doesn't it stir the blood a little bit? She traces her finger down your chest. It's a little scary, but when you let yourself and your anxiety go, I think the timing is a little weird. With everything going on, I'm not sure I could give you the attention you need. Any attention is better than none at all. Luca says, do you know how long it's been since I brought a woman into my bed? I avoid it as a rule, but I'm making an exception. Okie dokie, let's go for sucky. Luca looks down at her feet and then looks back up at you, almost shyly. It took you less than a minute to make me realize I was being ridiculous. I'm a warrior. I'm not used to excitement. I didn't know whether to curl up in a ball and hide or let the predator inside me revel in the chaos. I called you over here for a reason. And what was that? She rolls her eyes and lowers her voice. Because you calm my anxiety and excite me at the same time. Ever since we fought off Moretti, I knew there was something between us. At first, I thought it was just a rush of combat by your side, but then you chose to come with me and follow Basaris. You could have just walked away, but you listened to me. You believed in me when no one else did. I liked the way you make me feel, but I was afraid you'd say no if I pushed too far, too fast. But I didn't say no, you say, looking into her pitch-black eyes. You can see yourself in them. I'll make sure you're glad you didn't. You barely remember the reckless drive to Luca's suite or her rushed fumbling for keys to unlock the door toward a modicum of privacy. The elevator proved a safe haven for prying eyes, and neither of you failed to take advantage of it. You can still feel the sweet phantom pain of her teeth where they grazed your neck just before the elevator door opened. She pulls back and grabs you by the hand, leading you almost giddily to the door toward her suite. Something changes about her that's hard to put a finger on at first until she wraps your arm around her waist. She's warm, flush with the blush of life. You stir the blood within your veins to a similar purpose, and within seconds your cold skin heats, rising in tune with the strength of your passion. As Luca kisses you and flings the door shut with her left hand, while she drags you towards the bedroom. Okie dokie. Follow me, Luca says, flinging you onto her bed with a joyful smirk. The mattress is surprisingly soft considering the Spartan nature of the rest of the suite. It's quite a change from your bed. You wriggle back toward the headboard, inadvertently imitating a prey animal as she stalks you, dropping to all floors by the edge of the bed and advancing slowly, fangs bare. You make beautiful prey, she says before lunging atop you, sinking her fangs into your neck with no preamble. Your vision goes white as the pleasure of the kiss takes effect, and you succumb to her desires. Mumbling her name through ragged gasps, she takes her sweet time, drawing blood sparingly. She's aware of the consequences of such intimacy. A blood bond between kindred is not easily broken, and it will take more than this to affect anything greater than a simple desire to please one another. Pressure lifts from your chest, and it takes a moment to realize that Luca is no longer feeding from you, and then she leans into your blurred vision, baring her neck from above as she traces slender fingers down your chest, the lightness of her touch tantalizing your inflamed senses. Take me, she says, grinding herself against you as she all but thrusts her tender skin against your fangs. You can smell her sweet vitae. So close, so willing, and it makes the temptation impossible to resist. Seconds pass like hours as you feel your fangs pierce her neck, ponderous yet inevitable as you quest to the center of her, the core of her essence, and drink deeply of it. A trickle, a heady rush of excitement, then bliss as she falls back, going limp in your arms. She quivers as you take her, limbs writhing with subtle twitching as you sate a need deeper and more primal than either of you, something as old as time itself, the hunger. Yippee! We did the suck! The sun sets outside Luca's haven and pulls your consciousness back to your body, away from a dream far less pleasant than the woman curled up beside you. Her skin is as cold as yours is, but the memory of her warmth is more than enough to dispel the chill. You're not sure when the two of you fell asleep, whether it was from exhaustion or simply a natural reaction to the sun rising, but the slumber had been a deep and revitalizing one. You feel ready to take on the world. Luca shifts beside you, smile twitches, giving way to a full-bodied stretch. It's night already. She looks at you as if she expects you to disappear at any moment. It was real, wasn't it? I was afraid it was a dream. We were having such a good time. We didn't even see the sunrise. He laughs. Oh, you have no idea. I haven't slept that well in years. Takes you several minutes to figure out where all your clothes disappeared to, but soon enough, the two of you have made yourselves halfway presentable. You can feel something tugging at you, a new feeling in the back of your mind. From the covert looks Luca occasionally sends your way, it's easy to tell that she can feel it too. A budding blood bond. You'll need to be more careful from now on. A vampire who drinks too much of another kindred's blood can become a slave to their desires almost as readily as a mortal ghoul. As wonderful as last night's bouts of passion was, you'll have to be careful not to give in to your desires too frequently. An electronic buzzing from the granite countertop in the kitchen disrupts your thoughts and stops Luca in her tracks. My phone, she says. Hold on a second. I don't get many notifications, so it might be important. You're surprised that she's getting any notifications at all, given Arendelle's tech and social media ban, but many kindred seem to be treating it more as a suggestion than an edict. The two of you might need to have a talk about one of these nights. Younger kindred rarely experience the same leniency as an elder or primogen. I'ma not say anything. If you know anything about people's interactions with smartphones, you know that nobody likes to have someone looking over their shoulder or lecturing them about the device's usage. You wonder what the mysterious notification could have been about. Finally, Luca looks up from the screen, eyes as wide as saucers. They're meeting, she says, simply, fairly trembling with excitement. Who's they, and how do you know about it? I may or may not have pushed a spyware update onto the phone 𝑬𝒐𝒎𝒄 is using. It duplicates his texts and forwards them to me. You sigh with exasperation. Is everyone using those things but me? Probably, Luca says with a grin. But you're missing the forest for the trees. You didn't ask who was meeting with the 𝑬𝒐𝒎𝒄 and why. She pauses expectantly. Okay, you reply. Who? Alicia Gray. She stole something that belongs to Arendelle. She wants to hand it over to 𝑬𝒐𝒎𝒄. You think for a moment. Alicia? Wasn't she presumed missing after the Elysium bombing? Luca sniffs. The woman has more lives than a cat, and that's not what's most important now. What she's admitted to in this text is definitely worth more of her lives. Wait, you say, your brow furrows with confusion. Why would she admit something like that through a text? Luca smiles. Don't forget how old most primogen are. They're like the grandfather who thinks his emails are completely secure and still has indexed browser history from 5 years ago that he doesn't know exists. And that's assuming they know how to use a modern phone at all. I assumed that Alicia would be more savvy. Assuming gets people killed. So what are you gonna do about it? No, I wouldn't even consider fighting her, especially not the two of them together, but there's another option that shouldn't surprise you much. She looks back at the phone and scrolls through the messages. It's my job to keep tabs on electronic communications. That's one of the things Corliss had me doing while I was overseas. Monitor corporate communications, deep web chatter, anything subversive, really. Caught 3 crooks trying to sell private company info in my first year alone. I've got an intuition about these things. You trust me, right? It's a bit hard to say no after the events of last night. I do trust you. And I'll give you any support you need. Luca sighs with relief. You have no idea how good it is to hear you say that. I was worried you'd give me a lecture. I trust your intuition, but I can't let you do whatever you're planning alone. I'm here to support you. She gives you a quick hug. I could have used you while I was away. All that time alone. It feels good to finally have someone in my corner. Her phone buzzes again and then scrolls to the bottom of the copied conversation. They're meeting in an hour. Come on, we have enough time to get in position. Luca, if I'm wrong and there's nothing illicit going on, I'll never ask you to do this again. I promise. I'll even delete the spyware. You trusted me this far and I've been right every time. Mare was using the church to gather a herd right under the court's noses and nobody had any idea until we caught him. 𝑬𝒐𝒎𝒄 tried to have Key assassinated. What if this is just as bad? It's hard to argue with her, since she's not exactly wrong. Okay, you say, but after what happened with Javier, 𝒂𝒎𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔 probably has an idea that someone's onto him. We need to be careful. Careful, Luca says absently. Absolutely. She grabs your hand and pulls you toward the door. Let's go. The familiar sight of Michalis 𝒂𝒎𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔's rented home rises out of the thick fog like a parody of a haunted house ringed in by rows of hedges, desperately in need of a clipping. The air is damp, the prevailing temperature rising just enough to start melting weeks' worth of accumulated snow. You and Luca arrive just in time to hide yourselves when a black limousine pulls up the driveway. The driver skitters around to the back door and opens it with a poor attempt at professional flourish, revealing Alicia Gray. It seems that Luca was right. Miss Gray steps out, her nose wrinkled in distaste as she takes in the place. This was the best we could do for him? She asked the open air. Surely she doesn't expect her driver to know the answer to her question. A dignitary should be housed in something more appropriate than this tomb. She lowers her voice to a whisper, which you can barely overhear. Although perhaps it's fitting. Shall I idle in front, mistress? The driver asked. Take the car around the block and park out of the way when you won't be noticed. I'll text you when I'm about to leave. Of course, mistress. The sniveling servant inclines his head with respect before closing the door gently and returning to the front seat. Soon after, the car is long gone, leaving Alicia alone in the front yard, her red dress shrouded by fog up to the waist. A cold welcome, she mutters as she crosses the flagstones to the front door. Clearly, she was expecting a warmer reception. Perhaps whatever alliance may exist between the two kindred is nascent at best. Anyone who knows Alicia Gray well enough to work with her will know better than to greet her with anything less than a grandiose gesture. Your Toreador's sensibilities bristle at the idea of being treated that way. It's bad enough that you're hiding behind a shrubbery, but a visiting primogen should be given more respect. She doesn't seem all that comfortable here, Luca whispers. I don't care if she's comfortable. She shouldn't be meeting up with someone like 𝒂𝒎💄💄 in secret. Exactly, Luca says with a sharp nod. This clearly isn't on the up and up. She says she stole something from Arundel, and I'm going to find out what it is and why she's giving it to the Sombra. Well, we're not going to find out anything if you stay here. You say, let's get this over with. Just be careful. No fighting, no matter what we hear, okay? Yeah, Luca says. She's already sneaking toward the side of the house. No fighting, she whispers. The two of you creep forward and you find yourself wishing you possessed the nosferatu's gift for passing unseen. It's soon abundantly clear that neither 𝒂𝒎𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔 nor Alicia expects there is anyone to overhear their discussion. Either that or they don't care while they're pitched in an argument. An insult is what it is, Alicia says, her voice reaching a timbre that only a diva seems capable of projecting. You wonder how much toreador talent she's subconsciously lacing her words with. Leaving me out in the cold, not even greeting me at the door like a gentleman. I had such high hopes for you, Michalis, but I don't deal with boorish oaths. You can hear every word clearly from beneath the window. If the Camarilla had been willing to outfit me with a proper haven closer to Elysium, 𝒂𝒎𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔's voice drifts off and is harder to hear until he raises it again. Also early. What is it that the high society so often tells me? Arrive fashionably late. You have so much to learn, Michalis, Alicia says. Her voice is dripping with disdain. Party etiquette can hardly be applied to business meetings or exchanges of information. 𝒂𝒎𝒄 clears his throat, cutting off whatever it was she intended to say next. Let's cut to the chase, Alicia. Did the Archon's information pan out? Do you have the prince's journal? It's right here, Alicia says, slapping something down on what you presume to be a table. And I have Mrs. Durand wrapped around my finger. The Archon? Why would Adeline possibly have anything to do with this? You catch yourself creeping forward as the two conspirators start talking into another room, sparring with each other. Your superior senses can still hear them, but the further they get from you, the harder it is to hear the individual words. We have to get in there, Lucas says. The whole conspiracy might be bigger than I thought if Alicia is working with the Archon to steal the prince's personal belongings. No one will believe us until unless I get a recording or snatch that journal they're talking about. She points at the front door, which has been left slightly ajar. They're irritated enough at each other, it's making them sloppy. I'm going in. I think we should split up. Maybe. Or should we talk? Should we overhear them? Should we eavesdrop? Or should we just follow? You know what? I'll go for the recording. You get the journal. Ooh, I got an achievement. I spied on him. You duck low and gently wriggle your fingers between the front door and the jamb, pulling it open carefully to avoid squeaking hinges or creaking floorboards. Luca passes you while you hold it open, and you follow her, letting the door close silently behind you. 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆's voice rises into a thundering crescendo, echoing through a hallway across from the main entrance. They seem to have stopped moving at least, so snooping without getting caught will be easier. The room you've been huddled outside when you first overheard them talking about the journal is to your left. The run-down dining room has seen better days, and if you were a betting woman, you'd guess that the journal is still sitting on the slightly askew dinner table at the center of the room. You nod toward the dining room, and Luca flashes you a thumbs up before handing you a small device she's using for recording. It's simpler than a smartphone, no touchscreen to accidentally tap. She disappears into the other room, while you continue down the hall on soft feet, not daring to move too quickly lest you risk discovery. Going ahead perfectly, Alicia says. You can finally hear them well enough again to be sure of what they're saying. You make sure the recorder is on before taking a few more steps. You're right outside the door to the next room now. You nearly gasp out loud when you hear what she says next. When I'm prince, all this will have been worth it. When you're prince, 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆 snarls, you truly believe that woman intends to place you in the seat of power. She'll make a puppet of you, Alicia, and then your words of support to my clan will be worthless. The Archon has no interest in remaining in Ottawa, Alicia says with a sharp sniff, as though she can't believe she's having to explain herself to such a simpleton. She's here because her superiors believe that Arundel and Eden have made a mess of things. They want the Anarchs dealt with and new blood raised to power, a competent government in the face of the Second Inquisition. 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆 cackles. And that's you, is it? The competent government. Look at you, you insolent cretin, Alicia snaps. You came to me and now we're in this together. If I were you, I wouldn't disparage the only ally I have left. Did Javier ever return from his ill-fated attempt on the sheriff? Silence. No? A longer silence. So let's keep you focused. From what I've been told, there's been a trigger in the journal targeted at 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆's child. Some kind of fail-safe to locate Arundel. My dolls were able to lift the book from her ghoul. 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆's child. Trigger. Does that mean you or Luca? And if she means you, then how did Gerard get hold of a possession of Arundel's? So many questions competing with one another in your mind all at once that you almost miss what's said next. We should burn it, 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆 says. Arundel can no longer be trusted. The conditioning he put me under would never have worn off if he hadn't disappeared. We need to keep the book from getting into the wrong... He pauses. Did you hear that? Hear what? Alicia asks, voice breathing with irritation. Silence, woman. Had 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆 heard you? Or is it just his paranoia playing tricks on it? You expected Alicia to respond to the man's coarse treatment, but she doesn't say another word. I'ma not move. Because if I move, they'll make noise. I'll know moving. Okay. I'm not moving, yeah. There's no time to be seen lurking in a diplomat's hallway. If you're caught there, you'll wish you were never embraced. You stand still, not daring to move a muscle. The slightest sound could alert them to your presence. No sound. They've stopped talking, but no one has come after you yet. You're starting to wonder if this was a prudent idea when the conspirators resumed their conversation. It was nothing, you hear 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆 say. Of course it was nothing, Alicia chides him. Who would slink around here with all that's been going on? I wasn't followed, I can promise you that. How much faith do you put in that ghoul driver of yours? I know you didn't walk here, or God forbid, use public transit. Alicia ignores the dig, or perhaps she simply thinks 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆 is agreeing with her. Hector knows the cost of crossing me, and it's a price far too dear for him to pay. I'm confident in the abilities of my people. Back to the topic at hand. I do wish I knew how it was done, 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆 says after a long pause, how Eden was able to take out the old blue blood. We still don't know for sure that she did anything at all. Alicia says, my money's on Lang. You should have seen the fury on the face of every Ottawa Tremere when Arundel announced that the Banu Hakim would be welcome in the domain. I knew that move would hurt him, I just didn't know how much. 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒄 sniffs. I'm just glad that someone did our work for us, whoever it was. Who knows what other suggestions Arundel may have planted in my brain. Come now, I have the artifact you requested. Payment in full. A floorboard creaks. They've started moving again. Hopefully, Lucas managed to snatch a journal and escape the house. It's time for you to do the same before you're caught. For a moment, I thought they were going to catch me in there, you say after sitting down in the passenger seat of Lucas' car. If they knew I heard what they were saying, I'd never left that house. There are a few things you want to hear. You got the recording? Luca asks. You hand her the recorder and she takes a quick look, smiles, and presses play. The smile fades from her face, slowly being replaced by a grimace as the conversation plays out. When it's over, she starts the car and pulls out onto the road without a word. She's almost 2 blocks north when the tension lifts from her shoulders and you can feel her start to relax. Do you know which of us Alicia was talking about? You ask. Who the journal is supposed to be for? Luca pulls to the side of the road and shifts the car into park. Only one way to find out. She pulls a leather-bound notebook out of a small cloth bag and opens it up, paging through it in silence as you grow increasingly frustrated. Finally, she hands it to you. Worth a deeper dive, but I'm not hitting any triggers. Maybe you'll have better luck. The brown letter's polish has worn off in places from frequent reading, but when you flip it over, open the paper inside is pristine, bleached white, each page filled with an elegant cursive script. If you had to guess, you'd say this leather cover has held dozens of notebooks like this over the years. You page through the journal, reading entries at random as Luca watches you. He speculates, in his words, that in the era of the beckoning, with elder kindred being drawn to the Middle East by unseen tethers, a prince could recuse themselves and watch from the shadows to see just how loyal their subordinates truly are. The words resonate within your mind, and suddenly your vision is flooded with memories of a scene you vaguely recall from years ago, when Arundel took interest in your training. The villa, you mumble. Arundel hid himself in his villa, but something went wrong. You can read all of that, Lucas asks, staring at you. You understand it? Of course, you say. Glancing back at the paper, you realize it's written entirely in shorthand that you believe you learned from Arundel. It's funny. Now that you're thinking about it, you can't actually remember the lessons. Somehow, you just know how to interpret it. You read it further, entranced. October 21st. The trigger phrase is in the mind of Grace's child. Grace's child, Luca asks. Who's Grace? Hold on. I'm taking a sip of my coffee while I read the options. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna tell her the truth, especially since we are linked now, so I will tell her the truth. Saw her in a vision and Jordan thinks it's a repressed memory. What? Luca looks stunned as you recount the memory from your memory. The memory of your memory. That's impossible. I don't think it is, you say. I can't be sure either way, but somehow it felt too sharp to be fake. So many of my early memories are just blur, but this one, it's hard to describe. Luca shakes her head. I think I'm just gonna have to put a pin in this for right now. I can only process so much at once, and finding Arundel is more time sensitive. But I want to talk about this later, okay? Not one crisis at a time. You take a moment to think. We should check this out. If 𝑬𝒂𝒎𝒆 wants to keep this hidden, then it's in our best interest to follow the lead. Luca stays quiet for a moment. She looks crestfallen, and you're not sure why. So it's you again. It's always you, not me. What do you mean? You ask, puzzled by Luca's quick shift in demeanor. I thought for once that I'd be the special one. Not just a child who got sent away to deal with minutiae that bigger players can't be bothered with. I've tried so hard to impress them. And for what? She looks up at you. To play sidekick again. When I opened that journal, For a moment, I thought I mattered, but that was silly of me. Selfish, as always. Maybe that's why I never get what I want, because I don't deserve it. Yeah, 19 hours now. Not actually 19 hours. You know what? I'll hug her. I'll just hug her. She doesn't say anything for a while, but you can feel her slowly relax in your arms. Thank you, Briar, she says quietly. I'm glad you took the time to listen to me. Most kindred I've been with never really wanted to listen. When it all came down to it, they were just waiting for their turn to speak. I feel like an idiot. Forgive me? You hold her tight. Nothing to forgive. This whole mess feels impossible to unravel. I can't blame you for letting it get to you for a while. It's got to me too, but we need to keep moving to stay ahead of it, or we'll get buried. Maybe we should check out Arendel's villa. You have so many questions going through your head, so many potentially misplaced loyalties. Your answers lie in the villa, but why do you feel compelled to go? I think I will just pick the third option, where I'll benefit for a return to the status quo, the stability of the city. It showed that you are alive even though you're not on Sunday. Huh. Really? That is weird. Does that mean I shouldn't put up the stream so early? Hold on, let me look at stream elements real quick. Let me try and turn off the uptime thing. Give me a little bit. Give me a little bit. Okay, I turned off uptime now. Hopefully it works. Alright. Helping Arendelle is better to stabilize the city. Think of all the problems we solved just by finding Arendelle and restoring him to his rightful place. You say, all the political backstabbing and fighting over a power void at the top of the heap. He could even help with the Anarchs if he can figure out how to speak with Ward. We need to head to the villa right away. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Luca cautions. We gathered evidence for a reason. I think at the very least, we should take the recording to Corliss so she can figure out a way to deal with Basaras and Alicia. YouTube been weird these days. Okay. Yeah, that's true. YouTube has been a little weird. I don't want to tell Corliss. I don't think she can be trusted. We're gonna go to the villa. Luca thinks your proposal over for a moment. Agreed. We'll check in and then head out to the villa after. We shouldn't go on another trip until we know if anything else has changed or we were gone. Then and Corliss will be wondering why neither of us came to the office tonight. Right, the office. In all the chaos, you'd forgotten all about your more mundane obligations. It would be best to at least show your face and avoid ruffling Corliss's feathers. Okay, you say. We'll head to Corliss's office. Okay, next chapter! That was actually a really long chapter. Holy crap. I don't know if I can finish this. Like, I will probably... Oh, hello, John Arcs. Welcome. Like, I will probably try and finish chapter 9. I think chapter 10 is the last chapter. But we could, like, stop it. And then we'll continue chapter 10 next time. And I think if chapter 10 is too short, maybe we'll do Zatsudan after that. That's my thinking, at least. Truly long chapter. Yeah. Alright, let me do a stretch first. Everyone, do stretch. Do stretch. Big stretch. Okay. Chapter 9, Conviction. Luca pulls to the curb in front of Corliss's office building and kills the engine, pausing for a moment to scan the surrounding area before opening the door. It's unusually quiet on the sidewalk when you join her, mortals conspicuously absent for this early at night. A man you recognize as one of Corliss's ghouls emerges from the glass front door and waves you inside. Evening, Stanley, Luca says. Corliss has the entire block on lockdown. The sharply dressed ghoul nods as he closes the door behind you and slips the deadbolt shut. In all the years you've known him, you think you've heard Stanley utter a grand total of 10 words, and he doesn't seem intent to adding to the count now. He gestures to the nearest elevator and escorts you to the door, hitting the up button. His suit jacket rides up as he leans forward, revealing at least 2 guns at his belt. He notices you noticing and gives a nod. When the door closes, leaving the 2 of you alone again, Lucas sniffs aloud. I'll never know what Corliss sees in that man. A good relationship requires communication, and a ghoul is more than just a mortal. There's a connection there, blood to blood. You know what? Gerard is best servant. I thought you understand, Lucas says as the elevator rumbles upward. I had to leave my favorite ghoul back in Tokyo when I came home, and I'm not afraid to say that I miss having him around. He's supposed to come back next month, so at least there's that. A sharp metallic ding announces your arrival, and the doors pull open into the familiar lobby leading to the core of Corliss's operations. You spent thousands of hours of your life here, but tonight it feels cold and alien, utterly unfriendly. There's a small "Do Not Disturb" sign hung on Corliss's office, and you know better than to interrupt her when she's engaged in a private meeting. Hopefully we don't have to wait long, Lucas says, gripping the journal tightly in her hands as she paces back and forth with a crackle of nervous energy. Wait, what? I said, no, I didn't want to come here. Oh my god, I must have clicked the wrong thing. You examine your desk for any notifications of news or updates, raising your eyebrows at the sight of something expected, an invitation to a ceremony of ascension. Tonight, Luca, you need to look at this. You say, I think we picked the wrong night to go mercenary. What do you mean, she asks. What is that? She takes the paper from your hand and scans it quickly before looking back up at you, eyes wide. Is this real? You nod. Official letterhead, genuine signature, and it's here right on my desk next to our office. Corliss plans to take Praxis tonight. She's being raised to prince. But so quickly, Lucas says. Don't get me wrong, this is good news for us. But when did she decide this? When were the invitations sent out? They could have been sent out at least a night ago. You say, maybe 2. We never came back to the office after Elysium investigation, and we've been occupied most of tonight. And I have no idea what most of the council was up to, what the hunt in the sewers was going on in the night before that. We've been out of the loop. What about Arundel? We might have a lead to find him now. Corliss is taking his place. This is bad news. Arundel and Corliss have been allies for almost a century, Lucas says. Hopefully they'll be able to work things out if Corliss can convince him she was only acting as some kind of steward in his absence. She hands the invitation back to you. The more I think about it, the less comfortable I feel about the timing of all this. A muffled crash comes from behind the door to Corliss's office, followed by the sounds of a struggle, causing all concerns over Corliss's ascension to flee your mind. What on earth could be going on? Lucas' face creases with concern. We should go in, she says, and yet she hesitates. So do you. Decades of conditioning tell you both not to interrupt Corliss's private affairs, but as seconds tick by, the sound of struggling continues. To hell with it, you grunt. We can't just stand here. You throw open the door and step into pandemonium. Corliss's broken and torn body is sprawled out over her desk, her beautiful dark blue dress in ruined tatters. Over her stands the backlit form of a very familiar-looking assassin. As he slashes at her with black-bladed dagger, the air feels warm, and when you give it a cursory sniff, you can smell dead skin burning. The chief, Lucas says. Get the hell off of her. I'ma call out him because I have good manipulation and charisma. The chief, you cry out in desperation. Stop this madness! The assassin pauses and looks back over his shoulder at you. There's rage flashing in those eyes, but also sadness. Stay out of this, Briar. If you only knew what this woman has done, you'd never have come to her aid. It doesn't matter now, you say. If you don't put down your dagger and surrender, your clan will never be welcome in Ottawa again. Everything you've worked for will be for nothing. When word gets out, it could even drive the rest of your brethren from their new homes in the States. The Camarilla won't forget a Banu Hakim refugee destroying a seneschal the night before she meant to become prince. But she... A light goes out of his eyes, and for a moment you think he's about to step away from his grisly work in despair. But that moment never comes. Lurk tackles Kashif as he hesitates, driving him to the floor with a flurry of punches and sending his dagger spinning out of his hand, clattering along the hardwood until it comes to rest by the far wall, well outside his grasp. Before long, the assassin is hurt badly enough that he can barely move, let alone stab you. Corliss gathers herself and tries to arrange her dress in a way that doesn't make it look like she was mauled by a bear. Once she's sufficiently collected, she kneels down beside the unfortunate assassin and grips his chin in her left hand. You can hear bone popping as she squeezes and pulls him forward until his eyes are inches away from a long ragged cut on her arm. "It's not mending properly," she says. She's going for a cold, detached voice, but all you can hear is a dripping of venomous rage. "What did you coat that dagger with, worm?" she snarls. "Answer, and you'll be destroyed quickly." She pulls his chin up until he has no choice but to look her in the eyes. "Fail to cooperate, and you'll die 1,000 deaths until you beg me to release your soul into the void." For a moment, you think Kashif is about to speak. His Adam's apple bobs and his mouth opens, but when he purses his lips to spit, Corliss flings him away hard enough to make his neck crack. A wad of phlegm meant for Corliss's face splats against the far wall with a sizzle, leaving a brown scorch mark as it oozes toward the floor. Let's not be reckless. Maybe he was manipulated. After what he did here, Lurk says, aghast. "You're not suggesting we just let him walk?" "Of course not," you say. "I'm just saying there may be more nuance to this than there seems to be. Destroying him here now seems reckless. We need answers, and we won't get them from a pile of bones and ash." "You're right, Briar," Corliss muses. "We shouldn't destroy him now. He simply hates for his demise to be leveraged for my benefit." She nods. "I do believe I like the sound of that. Perhaps a filthy Asmite can be some use for me after all." You could see the wheels turning in her head as she ponders the best way to make use of this unexpected boon. "I think we'll need to display him for the council to see." She gestures you over to a small safe embedded in the wall and tells you the code. Inside, besides several stacks of cash and fake passports, you find a sharpened wooden stake. "Hand it to me." She grips the stake, looming over Kashif as he desperately tries to move away. Lurk secures him with ease. He's too far gone to put up much of a fight until he's had time to properly mend. "He'll feel everything," Corliss says, "every torment, but he'll be unable to move, not even blink." She smirks as he readies the stake to impale the hapless Banu Hakim through the heart. "Welcome to your new eternity, Mr. Salik." Lurk steps out of the office, carrying Kashif's dead weight on her shoulders before dumping him unceremoniously in front of the elevator. She picks up the emergency landline phone and starts speaking to Corliss' security detail for pickup. Corliss remains in her offices, changing her clothes and preparing her speech for the Ascension ceremony. "Tonight's the gift that just keeps on giving," Lurk says. "When you showed me that invitation, I thought that maybe Corliss' plan to take Praxis might be the end of the chaos, but it's just increasing. I'm starting to think that the best move might be to find Arundel and let him sort all this out. He won't blame Corliss for trying to keep things under control in his stead. He made her seneschal for a reason." "You might be right," you say. "Something in the back of your mind keeps tugging at you, that finding Arundel is the best solution. But how can you be sure?" We're going to this villa first." Lurk nods. "Corliss won't be happy with us at first, but Arundel will help her come around when things get back to normal. And if we don't find him there, we can just leave and go to the ceremony," you say. "We lose nothing for trying." The elevator dings and two of Corliss' ghouls come out of the office. "This is the body," one of them asks, curtly gesturing at Kashif. If the miserable state of the assassin phases him, he doesn't show it. "That's him," Lurk says. "He's all yours." The man picks up the body one-handed and marches back into the elevator, efficient and cold as a machine. As quickly as they arrive, the ghouls are out of sight, headed out to wherever. "Mind if I take just a moment?" Lurk asks. "I have to do that thing for Corliss down in the security room." "Pulling the video of Kashif's attack." She nods. "It'll be just a second. I'm really good at this system. Just wait here." You sit uncomfortably at your desk to wait, musing in how many hundred of hours you wasted here, oblivious to the passing of time. Now that your world is moving in a whirlwind, sitting here for even a few minutes feels like agony. For once, you wish you had some paperwork to do, but aside from the invitation to Corliss's ascension, the desktop is clean. You practically launch out of your chair the moment Luca returns. Did you miss me? She asks with a quirk of her lips. She could probably see you squirming, ready to go. I really did. That's what I want to hear, she says, holding out an arm to help you up from the padded prison of your too comfortable office chair. The elevator doors open into the main lobby with a sharp ding. Security hasn't relaxed all that much since you arrived, but most of the ghouls and armed mortals seem to be congregating at the front door where there's some kind of a disturbance. It's all under control, ma'am, one of the mortals say as you make your way toward the door. Please, just give us a moment to clear the exit. The struggle at the door grows louder as you and Luca share a look of confusion. It shouldn't take Corliss's special forces more than a few seconds to clear the way. Luca asks, what's really going on? The man pulls at his collar uncomfortably. Some of our own men turned on us. I think there may have been plans within our staff. Please step back. We're handling it. Out of our way. We'll take care of this. Luca gives you a nod of approval as you push past the stuttering mortal. He doesn't exactly have the authority to detain you, and he knows it. Most of these guys are newly hired, Luca mutters. Don't know their asses from the elbows yet. I think that's what happens when Corliss bypasses key screening procedures. She's rushing things too fast, getting sloppy. It's not like her. Briar, a familiar voice yells from the middle of the scuffle by the front door. Tell them to let me in. You've got to be kidding me, Luca says with a groan before turning on a dime and walking toward the front door. Release her at once, she commands. The mortals fall back just in time for Corliss's ghoul to bash one of their jaws in with a meaty fist. Everyone steps back nervously, revealing a somewhat disheveled Jordan. Her clothing is scuffed and torn in a few places, but it doesn't look like any lasting damage was done. How do these guys not know who I am? She asks incredulously. I want to take control of the ghouls just to keep the mugs back. Overzealous pigs. Jordan, what are you doing here, you ask? The whole block is on lockdown. I can see that, Jordan says as she brushes off a bit of dirt off her sleeve. But since when does that apply to us? It's a fair point that you can't argue with. One of the first things the new ghouls or mercenaries are trained in is recognizing the faces of the city's so-called VIPs. These mortals must be very new hires. That still doesn't answer what you're doing here, Luca says. Tonight isn't the best night for... She pauses. Oh, you've got that look in your eyes again. I was worried I was too late, Jordan says. Tonight's the night, right? The night for what? You ask warily. Jordan's visions are starting to become dangerous, but maybe she doesn't know the night we search for Arundel, she says. Am I too soon? Luca shakes her head. Damn it all. Did you tell anyone about this? Luca asks as she opened the back door of her cart for Jordan. Even suggest that it was happening? Of course not, Jordan says. I never compromise the mission. I'll wait here while you guys talk. You're always a little mad about this part. Luca closes the door on Jordan, maybe a bit harder than strictly necessary. This is the trouble we get for associating with a precog, Briar, she says. What the hell are we gonna do? We can't just leave her here. She apparently knows where we're going and what we're planning to do. We could use the help. What if we encounter something? Eccentric is one word for it, Luca says. She looks out over the quiet city streets, emptied by Corliss's lockdown order. So you think we're going to run into trouble then? I don't know, you say honestly. We don't know what we're walking into, but I know that we're better equipped for whatever gets thrown at us with another kindred by our side. We've both fought together with Jordan. You know as well as I do that she can hold her own in a fight. Hard to argue with that, Luca says. Alright, we've got ourselves a new partner in crime. I hope you're right. She opens the door and gets in behind the wheel while you join beside her in the passenger seat. You look back over the headdress at Jordan. Looks like you're coming with us. I never doubted it, she replies with an impish grin. What else do you know about tonight? Did you see anything specific? Jordan nods as Luca guns the engine. The car's headlights spring to life, illuminating the shrouded city streets. I knew that I'd be meeting the two of you here, she says, and I knew that we'd be going to Arundel's safe place, his home away from home. How do you know about that place? Luca asks. Even Briar didn't know until that journal triggered some hidden memory. I've never been there, Jordan says. Honestly, I don't even know where it is. I just knew that you'd know. As for what we'll find when we get there, that's where things start to get a little hazy. But hazy doesn't mean nothing at all. What do you see? That's a fair question, Jordan says. I saw an outline of someone in white waiting for us. At first, I assumed that it was Arundel, but I can't be certain. They're backlit, just a bright halo. Anything else? Yeah, it was cold wherever we ended up by the end of the mission. Freezing even. Almost enough to blot out the stink of death. But that was there too, tickling my nose. I couldn't see it, but I could sense it. She shrugs. That's about it so far. Hopefully I'll be able to pick up something more once we're there. Luca clears her throat in an attempt to interrupt the conversation. Is someone following us? What? You ask. Behind us, Luca says. I thought I saw someone pull in a few blocks back, but they've turned off their headlights. I can't see them in the fog. You crane your neck back to watch through the rear windshield, and Jordan does the same. You focus on your finely tuned supernatural senses, the legacy of your bloodline. Once you concentrate on the blood, your vision is clear, as if the billowing fog wasn't even there. I think, yes, I see them, you say slowly as your eyes track a dark gray sedan at least 2 blocks back, hidden in the mist with its headlights off. I can't be sure it's following us, but it's certainly suspicious that they're driving without lights in the middle of the night. Luca grunts. Let's test the theory then. She wrenches the wheel to the right without signaling, taking a side street fast enough to make your teeth rattle in your skull. A block and a half later, your follower does the same. You think he knows we're on to him? A few more maneuvers like that, and he will for sure, you say. Would you rather have me just let him follow us the whole way there? Luca asks. You're pretty sure that's sarcasm, but you never know this night. Let's just confront them, like, who the heck is following us? That sounds just about right to me, Luca says grimly, as she pulls into a driveway and reverses in a hasty 3-point turn. I don't have the patience for this kind of crap right now. They want to play games? Let's see how they enjoy having a game board shoved right up the... Hey, you say, putting a hand on her shoulder. Try not to get too worked up. We need to be smart about this. Just because we're being proactive doesn't mean we have to knock their heads together. We won't find out anything that way. Luca grips the wheel tightly, centering herself. Yeah, I'll do my best. She pulls out into the opposite lane, returning in the direction she just come. Within a few seconds, the grey sedan comes into view, and Luca rolls down her window. We've got those bastards now. Look out! Jordan yells, slamming into the driver's seat from behind and sending Luca crashing into the wheel before a gunshot goes off, dissolving a seat cushion into a spray of fabric and foam when she'd just been. Damn it, Luca yells. They fucking shot at me! You try to get a good look into the sedan's window as its wheels screech on the pavement and it careens in its opposite direction. At first you think the windows must be tinted, but there's no telltale reflection or gradient, just a blackness of shadow, an almost perverse absence of light. I'm going after them, Luca yells. Jordan leans forward between the seats and tries to get Luca's attention. Wait, we have no idea who's in that car and what kind of hardware they're packing. We didn't come out here prepared for a fight. Fuck, Luca yells, slamming her fist against the wheel. Fucking damn it! You'll look back through the rearview mirror. It looks like the sedan hasn't turned around in hopes of finishing the job they started. I think Jordan's right, you say reluctantly. They showed their hand, and we have a chance to get away before they turn around. Don't forget why we're out here. Luca grinds her teeth, but she maintains course without turning around. Several minutes pass in relative silence before Jordan pipes up. I haven't seen anyone pull in behind us since we lost the tail, and there's no alarms going off in my head. Yeah, Luca says. I've been looking too, watching the rear closer than I've been watching the front. Luckily, I didn't give them the last laugh by plowing into a building. We're headed out into the burbs. It won't be long now. You pass through the suburbs, and eventually the space between homes starts to widen, and it's more open field than urbanization. I haven't been down here in years, you say. There are barely even any street lights. It's a strange flex on Arendel's part, I'll admit, Luca says. Not quite lupine territory, but it's pushing the line. She pulls into a blackstone driveway, the car's high beams reflecting off the water of the Rydew River as it slowly flows past, less than a kilometer beyond the villa's backyard. I remember now, you say. How could I have forgotten? That makes one of us, Luca says. You doing okay, Briar? Nothing playing havoc with your head? She looks genuinely worried about you. I think I'll be fine, you say, offering her a grateful smile. Let's find Arundel and get back to the city before we get eaten by a werewolf out here. Oh wait, wait, what? Okay, I guess we might be finishing this tonight. Chapter 9 was so short. That was like 45 minutes. Okay, hold on, let me drink my coffee. Coffee. Alright, you guys have any predictions of how this might end? Coffee. Yeah, coffee. Let me just plug in my phone. Okay. Chapter 10, Ascension. Arundel's villa sits on the back of the Raiju River, 20 minutes drive south of the city center. Now that you're seeing it in person, it's hard to believe you ever forgot the sight of it. A lush garden occupies the front lawn, and you can remember clear as day the roses waiting to bloom in the summer between manicured shrubs that lie covered tonight in a light dusting of snow. It'll be months before the garden springs to life again, and yet you can see it as if it's blossomed just for you, a vision of rebirth after a long sleep in the cold earth. The house itself isn't what you consider terribly ostentatious. It's not the prince's primary residence, after all, but by mortal standards, it's quite lavish. Stone veneer has been arranged in a tasteful array of tans and off-whites, framing elegant windows covered from the inside with blackout curtains. Large flagstones mark your progress as you walk from the driveway to the front door, passing between a set of almost rustic-looking red oak columns. This is it. You can feel it in your bones that this is where you are meant to be. It's funny, Jordan says, looking up and down the columns before the front entrance. What is? You ask. You reach out for the knob, almost afraid to touch it, to see if it will turn in your grip. The villa, Jordan replies. It always looked bigger in my visions, like a palace. Lucas sighs. Or maybe whatever it is you're seeing in these visions is so generic that you can apply it to anything. She ignores Jordan's offended huff and turns to you. Is it open? You run your fingers over the doorknob, gripping it carefully, and for the briefest of moments you can't will your hand to turn it. Is it just your nerves getting the better of you? It's locked. What's wrong? Nothing, you say. Just felt a chill. Somehow you know that it isn't locked at all, and when you do finally twist the knob, the door pulls outward easily enough, revealing a disappointingly mundane entry room. White tile floors pave the way to a modest closet, half filled with spring jackets and a single winter coat, beyond which a wide archway leads to a white painted living room complete with a couch, love seat, and a wall-mounted television. What else had you expected? A den of evil filled with a stench of brimstone, a clarion of call of angelic trumpets as you walked over the threshold? Certainly not, but something more than this. Nice house, Jordan says, stepping inside behind you. Bit modern for my taste, but I can see why the prince likes it. It's not the kind of place I'd expect a prince to live in, Luca says, a bemused expression on her face. He comes here to escape, you reply absently as your gaze travels throughout the ground floor. It's a slice of normality. Maybe he meant for it to keep him humble. I don't see anything in the notebook about where in the house he might have hidden. Where do you think we should look? The basement's usually a good idea if you want to hide something, Jordan says. Maybe the attic, Luca adds. The basement might be too obvious, especially for a vampire. I'm certain that this place has already been searched by someone. There is no way we're the first people to think of coming here. If he's hidden well. He might have thought the attic and the basement were both too obvious. You say, could he have a secret place right here on the main floor? Or maybe he's not here at all, Luca says, throwing her arms in the air. She's getting frustrated. What am I doing here? This is what I get for being involved in Basara's plot. Nothing good can come from that man. What's the worst that can happen? Jordan asks. If we don't find him, we just leave. Why don't we each check a place? That'll make the search faster. She looks at you. Where do you want to look first? I'm gonna check the main floor. I do feel like main floor is like, instead of basement and attic, main floor is good. Good luck with your theory, Luca says. If you need me, I'll be checking the attic. Jordan nods, and I'll check the basement. I'll keep the door open so I can call up to you when I find him. The first floor of Arundel's villa is laid out in an almost alarmingly standard fashion. Living room, kitchen, dining room, and a study tucked away in the southwest corner. The kitchen is unsurprisingly devoid of food, and a quick look inside the fridge makes it clear that it's barely ever been opened. You decide to take a moment to explore the study. It's possible that the prince left a clue as to his whereabouts, either accidentally or on purpose. A gigantic carved wooden desk covered in a chaotic scattering of papers and hardcover books dominates the study, and it takes a moment before you remember where you've seen it before. It could be a twin to the desk Corliss has. They must have commissioned them from the same component together. But why is it so messy? That's not like Arundel at all. You approach the desk and lean over to get a good look at the paperwork. Bills, poetry, a stack of papers regarding a deceased relative. That gets your attention, and you pick up the bundle and give it a quick scan. The papers seem to be a complete accounting of one Dean Lamb of Vancouver, including his business interests, family members, properties, and a small list of petty crimes noted as expunged. You've never heard of the man before, but clearly he was important to the prince. Could he have been researching someone for a fresh embrace? Or maybe it's an alternate identity. Most elders have gone by dozens of names over the centuries of existence. Beneath the papers, you notice a small book that was tucked away. You pick it up and give it a once over. Collective Lucidity. The inside of the book has been hollowed out into a cavity that no doubt once hid something of value. Unfortunately, it's currently empty. Whoever tossed the place must have been found what they were looking for. A hand brushes up against your shoulder, startling you from your thoughts. You haven't been exploring for all that long, have you? Look what I found, Jordan, you say. Then you notice the hand resting on your shoulder is covered by a thin white glove. Fascinating, but you're not the first to discover it. Surprised and angered, you whip around, prepared to defend yourself against the intruder. There's no need for that, a man says as he steps backward. His eyes are hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat, and both hands are fully covered in what might have once been pristine white gloves, now streaked with dust. I'm not planning on attacking you. I'm probably here for the same reason you are. You're sure you've seen this man before. He was speaking with Corliss in recent sessions of court, but you can't quite remember his name. You have me at a disadvantage, sir, you say, watching his movements closely. I don't believe we've been introduced. He smiles disarmingly and removes his hat, inclining his head slightly in a show of respect. My name is Trevor Haight, and I represent Prince Annabelle of Quebec City. I was sent to negotiate the return of the Tremere to Ottawa. He picks up a paper from the desk and flips it over in his hands. I still find it hard to believe that someone as powerful as the Prince of Ottawa did all his own paperwork. Bills, bank statements? Who has time for these things? Leave it to the mortals. Why didn't you announce yourself when you came and started lurking about that? Doesn't inspire trust. Lurking, he laughs. Hardly. If anything, you're the one who gave me a bit of a fright. It's a big house. I simply didn't hear you coming in. You're not feeling entirely convinced. And why have you come to our prince's villa anyway? You're a long way from home. Most kindred will appreciate the help, Trevor says. He smiles, but it doesn't seem entirely genuine. He's clearly put off by your question. But if you must know, I was directed by Prince Annabelle to assist your sire in getting Ottawa under control. To that end, I was told to offer a new home to the Banu Hakim, negotiate a plan of return for the local Tremere, and if possible, locate the errant prince. The Tremere fled to Quebec City under Arundel's rule, you say. They resented the admittance of the Banu Hakim. Why would a Tremere prince like Annabelle desire Arundel's return? There are few cities in Canada under Camarilla control, Trevor replies. Up until recently, even Toronto was a home to our enemies, the Sabbat. My prince desires stability in Canadian domains, especially in eastern Canada, as they affect her own holdings. He gestures at the book you've been holding. I didn't notice that before. Anything interesting? You pass it over to him. It's a fake book, you say, but whatever was inside is gone now. You're telling me that you're not the one who rifled through this desk and took what was in that book? The desk was in disarray when I arrived, Trevor says absently as he examines the cover. Collective Lucidity. What do you think that means? You hear a sharp click from behind you, the sound of a gun's hammer being pulled back. What are you doing here, Trevor? Luca asks. The Tremere envoy tries to turn around, but Luca's having none of it. Don't even try it, she says. You're not going to get another warning. You have no right to be here, going through our prince's things. Who sent you? Basaras. Did you follow us? What is she talking about? Trevor asks you. Who does she mean? The priest? Rabbi, Luca corrects him. At least that's what he poses as. But you know exactly who I'm talking about. Is she unwell? Trevor asks you. She's usually quite on the ball, but these random accusations are becoming tedious rather quickly. He seems as concerned that he is mildly annoyed. He's clearly not afraid of Luca, but he may not know that Jordan is here as well. Between the three of you, you have little doubt that you could take him down if you absolutely have to. But maybe you can smooth this over. Trevor, you should tell us the truth. Where have you outnumbered? Trevor looked scandalized. I've been nothing but forthcoming since I announced my presence. Your sire gave me express permission to search this estate. Luca gestures with her gun in the direction of the front door. She said no such thing. She would have informed me if she was sending outsiders into the prince's property. You aren't fooling anyone. Leave, now. I'm afraid I must insist on remaining, Trevor says. I have a job to do. Luca shakes her head. Then we have a problem. Trevor's eyes narrow and tension grows thick between them. It's painfully obvious that without intervention, the confrontation would turn to violence. His hand moves quickly, removing a small vial of blood from his pocket. You've seen enough warlock sorcery to know that he's about to strike. All pretenses of congeniality have been forgotten. Oh, this is not good. He's a Tremere. He's gonna be really tough. He's got magic. Let's leave him alone. Don't attack. I wouldn't dream of stopping you, Trevor says. But I was thinking. Eden mentioned to me that the prince often stayed at a house in Rockcliffe Park, close to 𝑉TM's estate. I've gone through this old place from top to bottom. Why don't we check the other house together? I could use another few extra pairs of eyes. Luca frowns. A second ago you were absolutely insistent you were going to stay here, but now you want to leave. You're acting like a man with something to hide, Mr. Hyde. Why don't we speak like civilized kindred? You put the vial on the table, and I'll put my gun down. Would that be satisfactory? You know I can't do that, Luca, he says carefully. I have no idea what else is up your sleeve, and it's not like you need a gun to do me harm. You two are getting in over your heads. Look, you say, we're trying to be diplomatic here, but there's only so much I can do if you don't work with us. We're here to fix things. If you just back away and let us do what we came here to do, none of this will be on you. It'll be our responsibilities and no one else's. You might not believe it, but Arundel can set these wrongs right again. You can't help your ignorance, so I won't hold that against you, Trevor says. But that doesn't mean I can allow your blindness to destroy us all. He clutches the vial harder, and it cracks against his palm, dripping sluggish vitae and feeling gashes left by the splintered glass. Without warning, your body starts to spasm, muscles twitching of their own accord, tendons tugging until it's difficult to remain on your feet. Enough of this, Luca says as she opens fire. Yeah, he did attack first. Hello, Gooby Briar. Hello, Press V. Welcome. We're reading. Okay. Trevor rocks backward with the impacts, but he remains on his feet, concentrating and speaking soft words under his breath. Your limbs contort again, and this time the pain becomes almost unbearable as muscles stretch to their breaking point and bones nearly fracture into pieces with your rebelling flesh. You take a single staggering step toward him, groaning at the effort before you pulled up short. No, you cannot take one step further without pulling your body apart at the seams. But by then Luca is above him, emptying a flesh clip into his skull. Before he can recover his feet, his body shudders as he tries to mend the damage, but there's no way he's going anywhere for a good long time. What happened? A worried voice calls from the other room. You whirl, ready for another attack, but you're relieved when you see that it's only Jordan. Did you know we weren't the only ones here? Luca asked. Not until a second ago. That guy, weird hat, white gloves. That's Trevor Haight, right? I saw him at the console talking to Corliss. Isn't he from Quebec City? Blah. Quebec City? Jordan shakes her head. Guess it doesn't matter where I saw him. Did you find anything? You ask. We should move quickly, before someone else tries to come after us. Jordan nods. I need you guys to come check something in the basement. As soon as things got out of hand over here, something changed right in front of me. Trevor was hiding a control panel with some kind of illusion. Yeah, I'm looking goofy, guys. Goofy Goober. There's nothing here, you say, staring at the empty nook in the far corner of the basement. It's just a nook. She takes your hand and leads you to the other side of the room. Look here. Now look back in the nook. There's enough space between these walls for a whole nother room. It's not closet space, it's not the other side of the stairway, nothing. That's great and all, Luca says, but I thought you said there was an illusion covering a control panel. Right, Jordan says, leading you back to the nook. Right here. She points out a small touchscreen monitor recessed in the corner. The device flashes to life the moment You wave a hand in front of it, displaying an image of a padlock and key. The text on the screen reads, passphrase, with a blank box beside it. A tiny, touchscreen keyboard appears below the field. You know what the password is? You ask Jordan. No idea. There must be something from Arendelle's training that you remember, or maybe something you found during the search. Wait, what's that? You feel it before you hear it, the rumbling of several heavy vehicles pulling into the driveway and up onto the front lawn. Someone's here, you say. Jordan nods. It sounds like 3, maybe 4 cars. Heavy-duty engines, might actually be trucks or SUVs. We should leave. If they're armed, then they pin us down here with our backs to the wall. But what about the panel, you say? It might be a thermostat for all we know. Give it a guess, but we're running out of time fast. They're unloading something up there. You stare at the screen. Small text beneath the prompt says, letters only, no punctuation. What was it that Arendelle's journal had said? The trigger phrase is in the mind of Grace's child? What's the passphrase? Is it my name? Is it my name? The trigger phrase is in the passphrase. Is it my name? I don't want to get it wrong. Wait. Is it in this? Is it in the achievements? I need to know. I need to know. Should I look it up? Should I look it up? Guys, I'm totally not looking it up. I'm totally not looking it up. No, shh. You don't see anything. You don't see anything. Okay, hold on. Password. What's the password? Wait. We're not looking it up. Yeah, I'm not looking it up. What is the password in Parliament of Nags? Totally not looking it up right now. Oh! I found out the password. Hello, Christopher Oliver. Welcome. Okay, so I thought the trigger phrase, when it says the trigger phrase is in the mind of Grace's child, I thought it was asking like the name of Grace's child, which is me, which is Briar. But apparently, if you remember, we picked up a book. We picked up the book, and then the book was like, and the book's titled Collective Lucidity, which is like, I guess it's referring to the mind bending that's going on. And hello, police, welcome. So I think so. The password should be Collective Lucidity. You enter your guess in the text box and hit the enter button. A portion of the wall on the left side of the nook shudders and pulls open with a grating of concrete as hidden mechanisms reveal a pathway beyond. This is it, you say. We found it. We should move, Jordan says. We might not have much time. You and Lucas step through the narrow opening into a cramped passageway, and Jordan quickly follows. Moments later, the concrete rumbles again and lights flicker to life above, leading the way several feet toward another door at the end of the hall. There's another touchpad over there. Jordan gestures to the right of the sliding slab. It's probably best to leave it alone for now. I can still hear them, searching above. And now they're coming downstairs, Lucas says. You cock your head to the side. You can hear them now, less clearly than before, but still quite active as several sets of boots tromp down the stairway into the basement. Mercenaries. Must be, Jordan says. Local police wouldn't dare attack this place. Fan out, a gruff voice shouts. Any movement, engage on sight. Footfalls follow, and several seconds later a chorus of clear springs up from corner to corner. We better go. Whatever's behind that door can't be any worse than this. Agreed, Jordan says, eyeing the disguised concrete slab with distrust. The doorway at the end of the hall is cold to the touch, and the knob turns with ease. By your calculations, it should be opening up outside the confines of the house's original foundation. Wherever it leads was likely an addition to the original architecture. You push the door open, bracing yourself for whatever may be lurking on the outer side, be it friend, foe, or something else. Your dead skin isn't terribly sensitive to temperature, but the first thing you notice as you pass the threshold into Arendel's underground chamber is the frigid air being pumped in through a row of thin ventilation ducts. For a brief moment, the reason behind the blisteringly cold air eludes you, but you're not left wondering for long. You'd be forgiven for thinking that you walked into an abandoned medical ward. Mobile beds and stretchers line each wall, most of them occupied by unmoving mortals in varying states of decomposition. Small metal tables on wheels flanked several of the beds, playing host to a wide variety of surgical tools, from bone saws to scalpels. Compelled by an almost perverse sense of curiosity, you draw closer to the bodies, examining them carefully. Their skulls have been sawed open, you say. You look closer, grimacing with distaste. Their brains were removed. Ugh, Luca says, this is so disrespectful. I don't know what to think. I didn't expect this. I just thought he'd have more respect, Luca says. She seems embarrassed. It's the Catholic in me. The body deserves a proper burial. It's important. This seems right, Jordan says. Not the bodies, but the place. This is what I saw in my vision. At the time, I thought it was just an interpretation. I didn't expect to actually find Arundel in a real-life clinical butchery. And the temperature's right, too. I remember that. We haven't found him yet, you say. Do you know anything about this place, Luca? Why'd he have an abattoir like this hidden beneath the villa? I remember him training me above ground, but I never saw this lab, at least that I know of. I've never even been to this house, Luca says. So you have one up on me. Corliss never mentioned this place. She walks over to a desk nestled between two reclined corpses and flips open a notebook. It's Arendel's handwriting, she says. She reads over for a minute, flipping through several pages, while you and Jordan examine the rest of the room. You're getting a close look at the brain floating in the glass jar, when Luca slams the book closed with a groan of disgust. Okay, enough of that. What you find? Luca looks back at the book and bites her lip. He's been studying the effects of mental control powers on physical brain tissue. How many rewrites a memory a mortal mind can tolerate before he goes clinically insane. How far he can push someone with a suggestion and for how long. I stopped reading when I got to a list of ways he made people kill themselves. Apparently, when he pushes them hard enough to overcome their instincts against self-harm, it can leave lesions on the brain tissue. He's been documenting this for years. Jordan looks nauseated. I'm not naive enough to believe that any kindred is a selfless person, but I always thought, well, that Arendel's commitment to inclusion and opening up the city to new clans from different backgrounds meant that he was different somehow. She shivers, but not from the cold. I think the first one. I think he does care about kindred, but not mortals. But this isn't just the kind of thing I'd expect from someone like that, Jordan insists. We feed from mortals, sure, but they're sentient beings with thoughts and dreams just like us. We were like them once. I'm not saying that I'm entirely comfortable with it, you say. I'm just saying that I can see how he's able to justify his actions. Look, this is fun and all, Luca says, but can we save the moral dilemma for when we're back safe in our havens? Don't forget where we are and the mercenaries searching for us. They may be mortals, but I guarantee you they have enough firepower to even the odds. She points to a small door at the other end of the room. There's only one other exit out there, so unless you want to get into a fight we might not win, we should keep going. Hello, Karma. Your name. Very familiar. Were you at the Zatsudan? Or it had to be that. Were you at the Zatsudan? I just know that I saw your name before, and at first I was like, huh? Because you share a name with the automate or in the visual, like the dating visual novel that I read before. Oh, you watched and played the Batman stories. Okay, that makes more sense. But welcome, welcome. I'm sorry I didn't remember the exact place that I saw you. I definitely remember you. I remember your name. Because I saw your name in the, like... And I just instinctively remember the dating game. It's okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming. This is the last chapter, by the way, of this game we're playing. I think it's the last chapter anyway. Hopefully, I'm not sure how long it'll gonna take to end, but it seems like it's like slowly getting there. Finally, Jordan says, we found him. The door opens, revealing an operating theater lit from all angles by blisteringly bright lamps directed at a single point in the center of the room. The Prince of Ottawa, Arundel himself, lies reclined on a cushioned table with a stillness that would suggest final death if not for the wooden stake jutting from his chest. His clothes are in tatters, shirt nearly ripped into two from the neck down, his chest and pants perforated by what look like stab wounds. Surgical tools have been scattered all over the ground. The cot that had once contained them upended and left derelict by the side of the table. He put up a fight, Jordan says. Whoever did it doesn't seem to have done much to the body. They probably caught him by surprise, took him down as quickly as they could, staked him, and then left him here. At least 3 kindred acting together. How can you tell all that? You move to step inside and Jordan holds out a hand to stop you. 2 different caliber bullet holes. One of these kindred was an amateur and used a 9mm and looked there at the opposite wall, different angles. I bet if we dug in there, we'd find very different slugs. The 2 gunmen stood to either side of the door, while at least one more rushed in and tackled Arundel. Even if they caught him by surprise, that would have been one hell of a battle. Jordan gestures to the chaotic mess on the floor. The attacker didn't even bother to move the surgical tools out of the way. They just staked him and got out as quickly as they could. I guess they thought that nobody would find him down here. Lucas snips. Well, they were wrong. Now we need to find out what to do with him. About 6 days ago. Last week, basically. Okay, well, I'm still gonna take him out. Not take him out, like, I'm still gonna save him. I know he basically a serial killer, kind of, to humans. Not really a serial killer, I think he's like using humans as experiments, but we still gotta save him. We gotta bring him up. This was never about Corliss, Lucas says. I brought you here to foil 𝑏𝒂𝒎𝒄 plot. Or have you forgotten? You shake your head. I haven't forgotten. But now that we know Arundel wasn't destroyed, we're obligated to return him. You know that's not true. Camarilla rules exist to be broken. But Luca has always had an administrative streak. Rules and structure mean more to her than they do to the average kindred. Yes, she says, hesitating. Of course. Do you think he had any blood on hand? Jordan asks. This whole place is full of medical supplies. I'd be surprised if he didn't have a few backup bags in reserve just in case. There's a refrigerated cabinet near the head of the bed. I bet there's some in there. Wait, Jordan! Luca says, trying to grab her by the back of the shirt, but she's already run into the operating theater. What's wrong? There's nothing in... Something flashes and the floodlights surge as Jordan wails in pain and falls backward as if she's stuck in an invisible barrier. She rolls back up onto her knees and scurries away on blackened, blistered hands, eyes bright with animal terror. Once the shock has worn off, you run over and try to comfort her. What happened? You ask. Are you okay? Hurt so bad. Jordan gasps. Her flesh isn't mending. I'll be okay, it just freaked me out, like running into an invisible electric fence. The area around the prince's body is warded, Lucas says. She's still standing in the doorway, staring intently at the floor. It's hard to tell when the circle begins and ends. I have a pretty good idea where it begins, Jordan barking a quick laugh. At least she's still got her sense of humor, but we have to find a way through it. Luca, did they work with the blood sorcerers? Luca seems confounded by the exact same question. I don't know, she says finally. The only way we can answer is by reaching Arundel and asking him ourselves. I've never known a La Sombra who could practice sorcery, but anything's possible. She doesn't sound very sure of herself anymore, but she's determined to see this through. I'm gonna try it. Try what? You ask. You saw what happened to Jordan when she tried to walk through. It's all about focus and determination. I learned about it when it was out east. Now that I know that it's there, I have a chance. I have to stay calm. You know what? I'll do it. Luca flashes you a look of admiration. If you want to go first, I'm happy to wait my turn. Generous of you. Are you sure this is a good idea? Jordan says. I feel like I got hit by a truck. I don't want you to get hurt. It's all about focus and determination, Luca says. I learned about it when I was out east. Just try to stay calm and center yourself. Will yourself through it and you should be fine. You step forward, calming your nerves as best as you can. It's difficult to do after seeing the burns on Jordan's hands, but you can't let this be the end of your journey. A single tingle envelops your body as you pass through the invisible curtain that sent Jordan flying back into the main room. You close your eyes as you walk through, deliberately moving one step at a time. Focus, calm. No, something isn't right. Pain cascades throughout your body and you feel yourself shifting, the beast within hurling itself at its invisible prison as you retreat from the horror. When you're finally aware of your surroundings again, you're lying on the floor curled up in a ball, dark scabs line your arms where the skin burned away, blackened by the snapping current of the sorcerer's ward. Suddenly, Luca's arms are surrounding you. She pulls you back to your feet and gives you a quick shake. Don't give in to the beast, she says. Lock it away and you'll be fine, I promise. You try to do as she asks. It's almost painful to close that mental door, but finally it's done. Luca looks over you approvingly. You continue to impress. Briar, I'm glad you stuck with me. You're okay now, right? You groan. I'm not sure if I'll call it okay, but I'm still here, so it's gotta count for something. Think you're okay to stand on your own? I want to check those cabinets. See if there are any supplies we can use. I think so. Yeah, you say. Go ahead. Doesn't your jaw hurt reading all that? It's not so much the jaw. It's more like the throat. After a while, it kind of gets a little hoarse. Like the voice kind of gets a little hoarse. Hell with it, Luca says. She squares her shoulders and takes a very mortal-like breath before stepping forward, eyes closed. She is poised as though she expects physical resistance of some kind. But though her movements are slow, she passes through the invisible barrier without being shocked or thrown back like Jordan was. Damn, Jordan says, as she rummages through some of the cabinets close to the door. I have no idea how she did that, but check this out. She tosses you a bag of blood. It's not much, but hopefully that's enough to keep Arendelle from jumping us when we take out the stake. The gun is on the track, Luca says from the other side. I'm going to push it out of the warding circle. This kind of blood sorcery is usually designed to keep people out or in, but not both. Hopefully, it doesn't fry me. She grabs the end of the bed and rotates it, keeping it steadily as she pushes it through the door and out into the main room. I'll have to admit, she says when she's finally clear. I was a little worried about that, but clear heads prevailed. You study Arendelle's unmoving corpse, stunned for a moment by the vulnerability of a man you've known your entire life to command every room he enters with effortless ease. He'd always seemed completely invulnerable, a vampire god perhaps. Or, if not a god, then a conduit of godlike power made manifest. Part of you had believed that the rumors were true, that he had taken by the power of the beckoning, drawn inexorably to fight a holy war that has called elder to elder from their cities and into its tangle of manic confusion. Even that would be easier to comprehend than what you now see before you. A tired, beaten man, deprived of his godlike luster, staring emptily through unblinking eyes, a stake through his heart. It's time, Jordan says. Grip the stake as close to his chest as you can and pull. I'll bring the blood back to his lips. You wrap both hands around the heavy wooden stake. It's finely carved, painstakingly constructed for his very purpose, and it fights you with an infernal resistance clutched tightly between its victim's ribs. Slowly, ever so slowly, the stake pulls free, rasping against the prince's ribcage as snapped bone twists out of place to allow its passage. All at once, it comes loose in your hands, and you fall back from the effort, exhausted. Arendelle stirs, sluggish at first, eyes deliberately blinking as his maw opens, revealing deadly fangs which quest for succor. Jordan lowers a bag of blood to the prince's mouth, and Arendelle feeds with frenzied abandon, sucking deeply with inaudible gulps as he regains control over his body. A calm falls over him when the final drops disappear between his parched lips, and once again, he's the being you've known for so many decades. A lost and broken man no longer. The Prince of Ottawa has returned. Oh hey, that's how he looks. Looking very fancy with the fancy looking little suit. You have come for me at last, Arundel says, sitting up carefully and adjusting his suit. He frowns when he notices the bullet holes. You've done well, Briar, Luca. I'm surprised to see Miss Tremblay here as well, although it pleases me considerably. His eyes roam the remainder of the room, scouring every corner. But where's my seneschal, my sheriff? Surely at least one of my dutiful primogen have seen fit to come to my aid. He chuckles, and you realize he was speaking in jest. Such are the bonds of kindred loyalty. He holds his hand out to you. Help me stand, Briar. You do so, although you doubt Arundel ever really needed your assistance. Once on his feet, he makes his way over to a recessed closet and opens the doors, revealing a wide variety of expensive-looking suits. Did the usurpers put up much of a fight? He asks. Or have they gone back to their prince in Quebec, believing I would rot alone in my chambers for eternity? Usurpers, he must mean the Tremere. So it's true. This means the Tremere truly are to blame from Arundel's imprisonment. Prince Annabelle's envoy, Trevor Haight, was waiting in the villa above. He tried to stop me from finding you this place, but we got past him. They left that mongrel to watch over me, Arundel says. He's offended, but not by you. They think too little of my influence. And what of my home above? They've left it intact. There's a group of mercenaries searching through the villa right now. You say, I barely got down here before they noticed anyone was here. When you mention the mercenaries, Arundel perks up and licks his fangs. Stay here a moment. You can almost feel his hunger as it drives him through the passageway into the basement where you came from. Barely. A minute later, he returns, covered in blood from a feverish feeding. He seems sharper and less on edge. A marked improvement. I appreciate your patience, he says as he picks a fresh suit from the half-dozen hanging in wait. He shrugs off the bullet-hole-riddled shirt and jacket and slips on their replacements. If there are any lasting effects from his weeks of incapacitation and imprisonment, he's not showing them. There is another way out, which may still remain undiscovered. I'll take us there shortly, so we can avoid the main forces. I feel much revived, but while I could easily pick off a few of them in the dark, an entire squad is another matter entirely. He reaches under the closet shelf, probing for some hidden catch until the wooden paneling pulls backward, revealing a deep hollow. When he removes his arm, he's clutching a massive revolver, its grip wrapped in what looks like a rosary. You have a vague recollection of Kashif gifting the trinket to him when he arrived in the city. He plucks a few beads from it and brings them to his mouth, whispering a strange incantation before swallowing them. Within seconds, he looks more confident and revitalized. Forgive my asking, you say, but how did the Tremere find you down here? Who was aware of this chamber beneath the villa? A fair question, all things considered. Arundel retrieves 2 additional boxes of ammo from the hollow and checks over his weapon while he speaks. It's daunting how quickly he's gone from a paralyzed cadaver to an all-business killing machine. Aside from my departed mortal guest, the only kindred who knew about this getaway of mine was my beloved Eden Corliss herself, present company excluded. Sir, Luca says hesitantly, you can't be suggesting that Corliss was the one who set the Tremere upon you. I have evidence that the La Sombre envoy, 𝑃𝒔𝒆, is in the city, Arundel asks, his eyes boring holes into Luca's skull. Yes, she says. She was working with Alicia. They had your journal, the one meant for Briar. Arundel wraps a holster belt around his waist and slips a gun into it before pulling his jacket forward, concealing it from a casual eye. I can't fault Alicia for being ambitious, but 𝑃𝒔𝒆 was on thin ice as it was. He shakes his head. However, they would never have known about this place if not for your sire. I'ma ask. I'll be cautious, but I'ma ask. Is Corliss really my sire? The prince excuses himself to a second small cabinet to pick up more supplies, inviting you to follow him. Have you discussed these memories with others in the court? The way he asks makes you instantly wary. Best to keep things simple until you understand his angle better. No, I've kept them to myself. I understand that it's sensitive information. That is good news, Briar. The truth of the matter was a weapon of last resort. So it is true. That depends on what we're discussing, child. You've been frustratingly vague regarding your experiences. Vague is an accurate way to describe it. Glimpses of my embrace in a battle, but the faces were blurred. No matter how hard I try, I can't remember specifics. Arundel tries his best not to look relieved, but fails. He's typically quite good at disguising his emotions. Maybe his time in torpor has affected him, more than he wants to admit if he's getting this sloppy. Either way, it seems that you made the right call in not telling him the entire truth. The details of your embrace are complicated. The scope of that discussion is broader than we have time for at the moment. You have your answers, but not presently. Okay, why you pick me? I would have thought the answers to be self-evident, Briar, Arundel says. Are you not standing before me at this very moment, having assisted in my reconstitution? You are an asset to this domain with greater worth than Corlys ever gave you for. They gave you credit for. I knew that you held both the position and the will to do what must be done if Eden moved against me, and you've surpassed my expectations. I have no doubt that your loyalty will be rewarded by the time the night is out, but first we have other business to attend to. You from Malaysia? Yes, I am from Malaysia. Yes. I have short where I sing the Garaku, and also short when I sing the Sarawak anthem. I'm just very bad at being Malaysian. Okay, I'm not gonna... We should get moving. I won't ask questions. Can you speak Malay? Very badly. I got at the last, like, there was one time where I spoke Malay and there was a kid that laughed at me. So it's like, oh my god, if I speak Malay, I'm gonna get laughed at. Think nothing of it, child, Arundel says. I indulge you as a gift for your assistance in my recovery. Now follow me. He says he heads back the way you came, out the door into the hallway leading toward the basement proper. By the time he reaches for the keypad, you're starting to wonder if he understood the situation correctly. Maybe he's still out of sorts after having the stake removed. You said there was another way out, right? You prompt him, if you want to avoid the mercenaries. There is, yes, the prince replies. When he finishes typing his passphrase, a second door pulls open beside you, leading into yet another room hidden beneath the villa. A large furnace broods cold and dark in the corner of the room, and beside it, a steel security door stands tall, blocking off what you assume to be an emergency exit. You've buried a labyrinth down here, Jordan says. It's a bit eccentric, I agree, the prince says as he closes the door behind you. And less effective than I expected. I'll not be having another constructed in the future. He shifts a heavy bolt and pulls open the security door, leading you into a tunnel. The passage ramps up, but out slowly, eventually terminating in a solid barrier that looks similar to a Navy ship hatch leading upward, complete with a steel wheel one would use to unlock it from inside. Arundel pushes upward, groaning with the strain as the heavy metal rises reluctantly, eventually allowing gravity to pull it down to the opposite side. It's dark beyond the hatch, but the whispering of a river current tells you that you've arrived outside, somewhere to the rear of the villa, between the house itself and the Redew River. You pull yourself out, pleased to find that the hatch leads up behind a small hillock surrounded by manicured shrubs, keeping you hidden from the mercenaries searching the villa. Wait, what? You spoke in the video. Is that all an act? What are you talking about, elite trainer? Damn it, Eden, Arundel mutters. Petty witch. You peek out from behind the shrubs as 6 black SUVs pull away from the street and disappear back toward the city. Flames flicker through the living room windows, consuming everything in their path as they spread to the kitchen. Seconds later, Luca's car goes up in a towering inferno, setting metal and glass shards scattering in every direction. No, Luca exclaims. I knew I should have parked on the road. That's my only car. I'll replace it by tomorrow night. A nicer model for your troubles, the prince says distractedly as he pulls his phone from the front pocket of his fresh suit and dials a number. He brings it to his lips and waits a moment as someone on the other end answers. Yes, Daniel, it's me, he says. I'm at the villa. It's in a car. We'll need some extra seating. A pause. Yes, and bring one of my girls as well. I'm famished. He hangs up and gives the rest of you a court nod as he straightens his suit. 10 minutes and we'll be on our way. We're paying Eden a visit. Prepare yourself for a fight. I doubt it will be an amicable reunion. You're sure you're ready for this? Jordan asks. What if she doesn't go peacefully? You've been out of commission for quite some time. No disrespect intended. The prince smiles humorlessly. Nothing would please me more than if Corlys wanted to fight. There would be no satisfaction in watching her run. Jordan looks up at you with worried eyes. She's clearly intimidated by the newly risen prince, but you're not getting a sense of disagreement, only fear. It's entirely understandable that an imminent civil war between kindred elders could evoke such a reaction, but for some reason all you can feel is a sense of righteousness. But is that your thought, or is that Arundel thinking for you? In fact, Arundel says, I'd like to get my hands dirty for once. He passes you his revolver. Considering how effortlessly he carried it, you're surprised by the sheer weight of the thing. As it pulls your hand toward the ground, custom-modified Ruger Red Hawk, Arundel says, fires .500 Linebach cartridges. I like to think it's more imposing weapon than the eagle you used to carry around. I tell you to shoot, you do it. Understand? He's back in command again, as though he'd never left. Only this time, he's gunning for Corliss, and you're by his side. You don't know whether to feel like a loyalist or a pawn in an insurrection. Corliss has controlled your life so long that you barely remember a time when you were allowed to think for yourself. I'll be ready, you say. He watches your eyes, and you can see him coming to a decision. I know you will. You spoke Malay in one video. Wait. I have Instagram or TikTok. I tried to make a TikTok where I post the YouTube shorts, but nobody watches it. And also the YouTube shorts are already on YouTube anyway, so you don't even have to check TikTok. You spoke Malay in video. I don't remember. I think I did, but it was probably very bad. You want to sleep? Alright, good night, Karma. Oh yeah, we could do socials. I totally forgot. Say ara ara. I don't know. I don't say ara ara. I'm not sussy. But I think you can do like, is this socials? Or is it social? I have no idea. Okay, Briar, going for mob thing. Alright. Thank you. Bye, elite trainer. Alright. I think it's social. Is it social? Or is it just broken? It's probably broken. Alright. Bye, Persevi. Thank you for coming. You wipe a small crimson stain from the corner of your lips as you closely follow Arundel on a brisk walk, suddenly his right-hand woman. It's a strange change of pace, not unlike his taste in victims. You swear you've seen the girl before on television. A celebrity of some kind or another now warming your gullet and satiating your hunger, for the moment at least. So this is where she plans to take my seat of power, Arundel says as you get out of the car. How very her. The hotel Corliss has chosen for her council meeting is a modern one, lacking the elegant grace of older, more grandiose accommodations. The lobby is comparatively cold and angular, polished stone floors paving the way between check-in desks, rising like symmetrical black marble slabs, topped by perfectly aligned HD monitors, and washed over by impeccably manicured attendants. The lighting is stark, almost blinding when coming in from the clouded night sky, a modern venue for the changing of the guard, indicative of not only transition, but a return to simplicity, a reformation of a more orderly, Spartan Camarilla. There's little doubt that Corliss chose this venue as a symbol, representing her vision for the ivory tower. I want to record and post, so I can just say in very funny voice. I'll say "ara ara" in little voice. Like ara ara. Does that count? You record that. I'm not gonna say in a sussy way. Okay, let me see. The window dressing is little to me. What occurs tonight will happen regardless of the setting. Jordan doesn't seem terribly impressed. The old Elysium had a certain charm to it. This feels sterile, like a machine built in. Wait, is that? Yes, Arundel says. It is. He walks briskly across the lobby and two attendants move to intercept him. A few movements of power from the prince's lips is all it takes for them to reverse course and return to their duties as though they've never ever seen you. Alright, good night, Karma. He never so much as slows down. You round the corner just after him, absolutely dumbfounded to come face to face with the grinning Robert Ward, dressed to the nines in a tight-fitting business suit. His eyes are wide with surprise, and if you didn't know any better, you'd think he was about to tear up. Bobby, Arundel says, it's good to see you. You're kidding me, Ward whispers before raising his voice. You're fucking kidding me! Language, Arundel admonishes him. You'll attract attention. All this time, and that's all you have to say. I thought you were gone. Do you even know what's going on upstairs right now? Corliss is executing a coup, and I got a plan to stop it. So I've gathered, Arundel says, on both counts. He crosses his arms and thinks for a moment. Luca is starting to look like she's just about had enough. Look, I know you guys are upset with Corliss, but there's still a chance this is all a big misunderstanding, right? We can talk this out with her. Ward thrusts a thumb in Luca's direction. Why is this one here? He asks. Briar, I can understand, but Luca is Corliss's pet. I'm not a pet, Luca says indignantly. Let's stop acting like one. I need to... Luca, open your eyes, Luca. Luca looks torn. You of all people should know how hard that is to accept Briar. I do, you say, but we went to find Arundel for a reason, didn't we? He's the prince, and we have to trust his judgment on this. There'll be time for all of this later, Arundel says. He turns to Luca and watches her carefully. For now, you have to trust me. She hesitates before saying, I do. Excellent. That's settled then. He turns back to Ward. So what is this plan of yours? The council is meeting up on the 16th floor, Ward says. You can see in his face that he still barely believes whom he's talking to. At least the ones going along with Corliss's plans. succ and 𝑴𝒔𝒊𝒂𝒏𝒅𝒔 are headed up there now with an entire group of mortals we trained. Arundel frowns. That's your plan, just walk in and get slaughtered? The council is full of elders. Mortals will not submit against them. But they're not barging in though, Ward says. We've rigged the floor of the meeting room to blow. What's my TikTok? It's literally just Briar Mare as usual. So just like Briar Mare. You can just look for it. No, I do have it. I just haven't advertised it because I'm not really using it. It's okay, Elite Trainer. Hello, Madness. Welcome. Okay, wait. Okay, next. Okay, so he rigged the meeting room to blow. Now the next page. The explosives go off when you're halfway to the 16th floor. Shit, Ward grunts, holding tightly to the railing as the floor rumbles beneath your feet. She couldn't have waited. The second crash from above is more drawn out, like a slow collapse of floors and supporting beams. Will the structure hold? Arundel asks. He seems calm, but you'd be surprised if there wasn't an undercurrent of panic hidden deeply beneath the surface. Ward nods as this rumbling concrete seems to stabilize. She's good at this kind of stuff, knew just where to place the charges. Far above you, the sound of gunfire starts beating a staccato rhythm, echoing down the concrete walls of the enclosed stairwell. We're gonna miss the party if we don't hurry. It's okay, Jordan says. The fire's out by now. We make it safely. Did you have a vision? You ask. Jordan nods. In the car, she breaks out in a grin. This is it. This is the moment we've been waiting for. What you do tonight will change history. If you have any ideas how to proceed, you might as well voice them now before the charge is renewed in earnest. Alright, I'll watch it later. Thanks, Karma. And yes, hello, Madness. Sorry, if I'm reading, I gotta finish reading mostly before I respond. But yeah, I'm doing good. Hope you're doing good as well. Let's move quickly. I agree that we may be too late if we spend too much time being cautious, but we need to make sure that Corliss survives. We'll never know what really happened if we can't question her. The stairs burr beneath your feet, and before long you've lost count of them as you do your best to keep up with the surprisingly spry anarch. For a moment, it looks like Arundel is having trouble, but when you step back to help him, he waves you off. Weeks with the stake through the heart take a while to recover from, even for someone my age, he says as he jogs past you. The wounds are mended, but there's some other damage that's difficult to describe. Mental affecting the physical? I don't know, but I don't need to be in top physical condition to fight. Not the way I operate. We should be almost there. When you arrive at the 16th floor, the battle is still raging unabated behind the closed door leading to the conference floor hallway. Ready for this? Ward asks. You nod. Then let's kick some ass. He slams open the door, revealing 4 black-clad gunmen on the other side, rifles already aimed directly at him. Oh, light him up! All 4 men fire at once, riddling Ward with bullets and pushing him back into you, nearly sending you tumbling down the stairs. You're stunned for a second. Clearly, these aren't the mercenaries Ward trained, but if they aren't his, then whose are they? Corliss must have hired a new security detail for her ascension ceremony. Things just got a whole lot more complicated. You pull the Ruger Red Hawk Arundel loaned you from its holster and prepare yourself for battle. I'ma just shoot. Most of the mortals remain focused on Mare, but once you aim Arundel's Ruger Red Hawk, that starts to change quickly. You squeeze the trigger, bracing your arm as the massive gun sends shockwaves through your body. The shot goes wide, tearing a chunk out of the wall behind your target and giving him time to fire back, tagging you in the shoulder and chest, while you're distracted by the recoil. You focus through the pain as your body mends the damage and you fire again. This time you score a hit, the bullet tearing through the man's chest and sending him stumbling back against the wall, wailing in agony. You quickly shift to take on another target, only to see Arundel slam his forehead into the man's face, breaking his nose and shattering his skull, sending him spiraling to the floor. The prince sneers at the mortal and steps back, straightening his tie. Only seconds have passed, but all 4 mercenaries are down. That felt good, Arundel says. I needed to hit something. Excellent work, Briar. Ward raises an eyebrow. Thought you'd do that mind thing of yours where you make him shoot himself. Not worth the effort for this lot, Arundel replies. I have to save my energy for where it's needed. He steps over the bodies and points toward a large set of double doors. I believe this is where the majority of the gunfire was coming from a minute ago. It's almost quiet now, you say. Almost. You think you can hear the sound of a brawl and a muted cry of pain from the other side. No more gunshots, but someone's getting beaten on the other side of the door. Arundel is no longer listening. His hand is closed around the door's ornate handle, ready to enter the conference room beyond. She's here, he says simply. Somehow, he just knows. Smoke belches from the door as Arundel pulls it open, revealing a shimmering tableau enshrouded in choking mist and backlit by big flickering fire. Ward's Banu Hakim Lieutenant 𝑺𝒐𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔 and a woman you've never met before stand beside the moving corpse of another, each bent and broken from their wounds, although 𝒐𝒐 seems to have gotten the worst of it. Arundel strikes forward with furious purpose. What has happened here? Who are? The unknown woman lifts her alabaster face, and the princess' brief tirade cuts herself short. Who are you? Looks very... Oh, she has nice hair though. I didn't expect to see you here, Arundel, she says with a honey tongue. Far more pleasant and conversational than the circumstances would seem to dictate. If you come here for a piece of Eden, then I'm afraid you will arrive too late. You step closer to get a better look of the woman. Her rose-red dress has somehow managed to pass unscathed through the ashes, lending her an ethereal appearance, held on high above the worldly soot-covered chaff. Her gaze flickers, and for a moment she stares into your eyes. You immortal, you drown in the smoky blue of her irises. You're interfering in the affairs of my domain, Annabelle, Arundel says. You belong in Quebec, not at the root of my power. Prince Annabelle, your mind goes into overdrive to figure out what's going on. Annabelle rules the biggest Tremere chantry in the country. If she didn't expect Arundel to return, could she be making a move on Ottawa? That doesn't make sense. Didn't the Anarchs plan this attack? And if Corliss is the corpse at her feet, why were they fighting suddenly? Several things happen very quickly. Before we can finish piecing the scene together, the prince grabs Annabelle by the throat and lifts her off the ground with snarl of fury, murderous intent clearly obvious. Ward tries to run to his partner's side, only to be ambushed by 2 massive snapping Rottweilers at 𝒐𝒐's growled order. The Anarch howls in response to the perceived betrayal. Jordan rushes to Ward's aid, while Luca backs up Arundel, shouting furiously about the Tremere's meddling. Corliss' scorched body twists with the sharp snapping of bone, and she rises to her knees, aiming a heavy-looking handgun at both princes. You have no way of knowing which one of them she intends to shoot, but if you don't intervene, you'll know soon enough. Can I shoot Corliss? Yeah, I'm gonna shoot Corliss. Oh, but it says it'll be a difficult shot. I'll try it. Shoot. You raise Arendel's Ruger Red Hawk and take aim, firing 2 shots in Corliss's direction. The first wings her in the leg, but the second misses completely. She takes shelter behind the remains of a ruined concrete wall and fires back at you wildly, also missing completely. You had a hard time hitting her when she didn't have cover, but now it would be almost impossible. Not sure what to do, you close the distance quickly, boxing her in to keep her focused on you and on the struggling princess. Yet another bullet grazes your right leg and you stumble, managing to right yourself in the last second before you collide with her, wrestling the gun away as she yells at you in defiance. "You idiot!" she growls. "Is there nothing you won't interfere with, Briar? I nearly had them. They had their guards down and you barge in here with him?" She suddenly abandons her grip on the gun, and you fall back, still pulling at it when it comes free in your hands. She hops to her feet and kicks you in the chest, sending the weapon spinning out across the floor. You stare up at the ceiling, dazed for a moment. Arendelle is still holding Annabelle aloft by her neck to your left, while Corliss is to your right, slowly retreating to get her bearings and figure out her next move. I'm going to go take down Corliss still. The two of you collide, smashing up against each other like waves as you trade blows that will bash a mortal to pieces. Several seconds in, you feel a strange wave of calm flood over you as familiarity sets in, and you remember this is far from the first time you fought the same struggle. How many years did this woman spend ruthlessly training you, beating you within an inch of your own life? Relentless and unforgiving. You were sure that then that failure would end your destruction, and you know less certain of that outcome tonight. But you survived then, and you'll survive now. I played defensively. You hang back, forcing Corliss to go on the offensive as you block her attacks, frustrating every chance she makes and countering with jabs that serve to get her angry and riled up. Finally, she puts all her aggression into a single punch and you dodge it easily, bringing a knee up into her stomach and throwing her back, eliciting a grunt of pain that you can tell is very real. "Why do this?" she grunts with barely repressed rage. "Why are you helping him? I gave you everything." "He told me the truth," you say, washing her hands in case her question was a trick to keep you from noticing any dirty tactics. "He told me you were the only one who could have captured him there." "And you just blindly believed him," Corliss replies with a sharp laugh as he ducks beneath your left fist and pulls back. "The man whose idea of a pleasant evening is rearranging someone's mind. But I suppose it doesn't matter what you think now. You've made your choice." She crouches and scoops up a long blade that you fail to notice on the floor amid the wreckage. "This is the end, Briar." She leaps at you, slashing with the sword as you dodge back out of its reach. You realize she's not going to back down. You pull back and reassess the situation. You're exhausted, drained of whatever life you still have in your weary, undead bones. You've done well to survive for this long against your sire, and if Arendelle doesn't finish his business with Annabelle quickly, you risk a quick look back just in time to see Key approaching the struggling princess from behind and slicing a wicked-looking falchion blade through Annabelle's back, driving it upward through her neck and nearly severing her head from her shoulders. Arendelle steps away and screams at the sheriff in shock as Prince Annabelle's body disintegrates into dust. "Betrayal," Corliss grunts as she slams her own blade into your chest. It seems to be a running theme tonight. You feel every inch of steel parting your guts until it bursts free from the other side, impaling you. She wraps her hands tightly around the hilt and twists, eliciting a very real howl of agony from your lips. "Now be a good girl and stay here while I deal with Arendelle." Arendelle whirls to face Corliss, a furious frown curling his face into a riches of unholy anger. "You dare!" he shouts. Corliss fires and Arendelle sidesteps it faster than you can blink. "Huh, you didn't know he could do that." Apparently neither did Corliss, because she starts to get frantic, backing away while feeling for the door behind her. She can't raise her eyes from the floor. She knows that to accidentally meet Arendelle's gaze would be the end of her. She risks one quick glance over to 𝒐vink, but the assassin is having her own problems at the moment. "It's over, Eden," Arendelle says. He's halfway to her now, stalking her like prey. He wants her to feel fear. "Your little coup is over. Your allies turned on you and you couldn't even keep me prisoned for more than a month. What is a few weeks to my centuries?" Beside him, Key emerges from a wisp of shadow and nods to Arendelle. The two stalk forward just like old times, shoulder to shoulder, the prince and his right hand. "You are ruining everything," Corliss yells back. meeting his fury with her own. Ottawa was falling apart because of you. She reaches for something hidden in a small pouch on her back, disguised by the flowing shape of her outfit. Another gun. Arundel notices and then makes eye contact with you, shaking his head slightly. He definitely seems to feel like he has the situation under control. You ready yourself for action just in case. Never underestimate someone like Eden. Justify it any way you want, Arundel growls. You wanted power. I never should have saved you from Grace. If she took control, you'd have a little more respect left in that ungrateful mind of yours. Grace. So your memories must be at least that accurate. Could Grace's spirits have overcome Corliss's somehow? You've heard about such thing happening in myths, but you've never seen any proof that it was possible. It's said that the act of 𝑑ialBRI is perilous even for the victor. Could Arundel have fortified Corliss's mind somehow? You manage to pull the blade from your chest, wincing as your innards try to come out with it. All you want to do is lie down and let final death take you to make the pain go away. But somehow, you find the strength to go on. Sheer instinctive stubbornness, you suppose. I refuse to intervene. Corliss will meet final death, not my call. You're not sure whether Arundel or Corliss will notice if you interfered, but you decide to step back and enjoy the show. Corliss has made too many fatal mistakes and betrayed far too many kindred to be allowed to survive the night. For the very first time you can remember, Corliss's face shows true fear as Arundel advances on her. She fires, but her hands are shaking and the prince doesn't even need to dodge. She turns to run, but all the exits on her side of the room have been sealed shut from the blast. He is almost within an arm's reach when he stops. Eden, do you remember when you told me the first time I laid eyes on Briar? He asks, gesturing back at you. Corliss snarls like an animal caught in a trap. I told you we should have killed her. She refused to look at you. That's right, Arundel says. And I'm so glad I didn't. Briar could have stayed here with you, a loyal servant to the end. But she knew what was proper. She knew that something was wrong. Because you messed with her mind, death would have been in mercy. Arundel shakes his head. Briar had a choice. I placed the information that led her to me, but she had to choose to act on it. He looks back at you for a brief second. I could have implanted you with a directive that forced you to follow it, but I didn't. I gave you free will and the information you needed to act upon it. Nothing more, nothing less. Why do you want to kill me all those years ago? Corliss laughs. You'll never know if you let him take me. He'll never tell. The prince cuts her off and speaks to you. You witness Eden destroying one of the most powerful kindred in the country. She feared retaliation and demanded that the witness be silenced forever, so I hid the memory from you. A violation, yes, but it saved you. You'd be decomposing in the ground right now if I hadn't intervened when I did. Corliss's hand flashes out, and she takes one final shot, hoping that Arundel is distracted enough by the conversation to miss what's coming. It's almost point blank, impossible to avoid, but even then he's able to twist aside as a fiery shell explodes from the handgun. The incendiary round bursts through his side with a hiss of melting flesh. Enough sentiment, Arundel says, stifling a growl. I've had quite enough of this entire affair. Put the gun in your mouth, Eden. Corliss's eyes widen as her hand betrays her, bringing the massive gun barrel inexorably upward until it's resting between rows of perfectly white teeth. She shakes her head manically, trying to say something, but her words are muffled and impossible to understand. You can't help but be mesmerized by the scene as it plays out. You always understood that there are limits to what one could accomplish through mental compulsion. That a victim couldn't be brought to self-harm or suicide. It would seem that something as pedestrian as limitations is beneath a vampire of Arundel's power. Arundel doesn't bother with ceremony. A sharp sniff of distaste is the only emotion he shows before making his final request. Pull the trigger. The back of Corliss's skull explodes outward with a sharp burst of fire and the smell of smoke splattering the wall behind her, with damp pieces of brown and decaying long-dead brain matter. What's left of her head falls to the floor along with her lifeless body, her eyes staring at you accusingly as they start to go hollow, deflating in on themselves like overripe pieces of fruit before falling to dust. We'll need to be careful how we spin this, Arundel, he says. We don't know how many kindred witnessed what happened tonight. There was an entire council and outside dignitaries above when the bombs went off. Most of them escape, but you know as well as I do that our kind have ways of spying without being seen. If they saw me destroying Prince Annabelle, the news will make its way back to Quebec City by tomorrow night. Her chantry would come for me, but at least now they won't be coming for the entire domain. You had every right to do what you did, Arundel says, and your loyalty won't go unnoted. I won't be throwing you to the wolves to placate some simpering warlocks. Thank you, Key says. They're gone, you hear Jordan call out from the other side of the room. She and Luca appear from behind a crumbling pillar of concrete. In all the chaos, you almost forgot about the battle between Ward and 𝒐𝒏𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔. 𝒐𝒏𝒄 was being controlled by Annabelle, Luca says. When she managed to snap out of it, Ward helped her get away. She was pretty messed up. You rush over and pull Luca into a tight hug. She looks embarrassed at first, but the rigidness of her fatigued muscles goes slack in your arms, and you know your comforting is well received. Enough talk, Arundel snaps. His mood has darkened considerably since he realized he had more than Carlos to contend with. I need to rest and then figure out how to explain all this. Those who stood with me tonight will be rewarded, and when I discover who worked with these would-be usurpers, Key's blade will get some good use. He looks over at the sheriff. It hungers, doesn't it? The sheriff places his palm on the hilt of the falchion. He looks uncomfortable speaking about his role as executioner, and you can't tell if he's talking metaphorically when he agrees with Arundel. It does hunger, yes. Good. We'll sate its appetite in the coming nights. Ooh! Epilogue! Hopefully epilogue's not too long. Change is inevitable. It comes for us all, but we must guide it by the hand like a lover, or it will destroy everything we have wrought. Every one of our stories has had a beginning and an end, but we kindred are unique and we have the inviolable opportunity to start anew. Death and rebirth. What path will Briar tread next in her life, I wonder? From the Journals of Arundel, Prince of Ottawa. 2 nights later, the chaotic nights of Corliss's stewardship are over, Arundel proclaims to a small gathering of elders and notable information brokers. There will be a return to order. I have mounted a full investigation. Peeling white paint blights the ceiling of the temporary council chamber. Despite the gravity of the events going on around you, your eyes keep wandering back to it. One chip is heavy and curled around its edges, as if it had been waiting years to take the final plunge before falling to white powder, preferably in the scalp of someone important. The ancient vampires gathered around you also cling tightly to their moorings, bracing against the inevitability of change. Eventually, one by one, they will chip away at each other, a parliament of knives that knows only entropy. All eventually fall, all things end, but while you were here, while you could still make a difference, did you not do everything within your power to be remembered? Luca leans slightly against you, no longer afraid of what the rest of the court would think about your newly forged relationship. You should be listening, she says, leaning close to you. There are going to be some important changes coming after everything we've gone through. I need to make sure you stay safe. After the attack on the council meeting, you two left the others and retired to Luca's suite. Having come so close to death on more than one occasion, it almost seemed to energize her, and the last half hour of the night was devoted to a far more pleasurable form of battle and bloodletting. Afterward, the two of you slept the day away, tangled together in a chaotic mess of limbs and sheets. I'm just glad that we're safe. I never doubted it, Luca says with a smile. The two of us together. Who could stop us? Mare, Basaris? She chuckles. Certainly, not any mortals or bombs. Maybe not any of those, you say, but being at the epicenter of a kindred struggle for power in the most important city in the country? Lucas shakes her head. I'll admit that if anything was gonna get us, that would probably be it. But hey, we're still here, and you're still putting up with me. I'll take that as a win. You make it sound like a chore, you say. I know I can be difficult at times, she says, but I like to think I'm worth it in the long term. Okay, I worry about the same thing. It's weirdly comforting to hear, you know, Lucas says. Like, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable and unworthy, but it's somehow a relief to know that you feel it too. Now we can work through it together. She grips your hand as your attention is suddenly brought back to the front of the room. Something is coming. We can feel it. You were right before, you whisper. We should be paying closer attention. Luca nods, looking a little embarrassed. Since when have I ever listened to my own advice? Arundel sweeps his gaze over the assembled kindred, and for the moment they linger on you before moving on. Why did a shiver just run down your spine? He's been leading up to something, but you haven't been paying close enough attention. You wish you were out hunting. Your hunger is like an addiction that never stops reminding you of its insatiable desire, a constant clawing at the back of your mind. I'd like to give the floor to Archon Duran. Well, that was unexpected. Adeline walks briskly to the front of the meeting room. All business as usual. No wasted movement. Economy in motion. Good evening, fellow kindred, she says. Not all of us have met. I am Archon Adeline Duran. She speaks with a cadence closer to that of a military officer than an official addressing their elite patrons. Is that on purpose, or is she simply unaccustomed to formal settings? She continues after a brief pause to make sure she has everyone's attention. I'm aware that there are many rumors regarding the nature of my investigation. This is good. It means that the appropriate individuals have held their tongues as I required. When I arrived, I found a capital city very much out of order. Our Camarilla domains have become fractured of late, our ability to communicate hampered by the emergence of the Second Inquisition. My superiors might be content allowing some domains to fall to ruin. But this is Ottawa, home of the Canadian government, politicians and agencies directing the forces of the Inquisition live and work here, and it is your duty to keep them under control. Allowing anarchs to race through your streets unchecked was simply unacceptable. At the far corner of the room, you notice Gorski leaning against the wall, smiling ear to ear. It's the first time you've seen him since the investigation at Elysium, when he all but begged you to facilitate his meeting with Corliss. He seems pleased with himself, as he believed he played some part in Eden's misfortune. Somehow you doubt that the man ever got the audience he so desired. A few disapproving stares from other kindred melt his grin quickly enough. You doubt he'll survive much longer if he doesn't flee the city by the time Archon's done shifting the tides of power. Arundel clears his throat. I assure you, Archon, now that our little family dispute has been settled, the anarchs will no longer be a concern. Spare me the platitudes, Adeline replies, staring the prince down with a withering gaze. I've been made aware of your relationship with the creature known as Robert Ward. She takes a step closer to him and looks him in the eyes, almost daring him to try to use his mental powers. When he doesn't, she sniffs and turns back to the crowd. The Anarch arranged an attack on this very council and its guests on multiple nights since I've arrived, while your prince suggests that he is no longer a concern. I require proof of this assertion. Fortunately, it will be easy for you to provide. She raises a black gloved hand and crooks a finger, motioning her two servants to open a small door at the back of the room. What is the meaning of this? Arundel asked, voice raised with surprise, as Ward stumbles into the room with a daze. You wouldn't believe how difficult it was to subdue your friend here, Adeline says to the fuming prince. He put up quite the fuss, but the attack of your council took the wind out of his sails. Ward looks dazed and sick. His clothes are ripped into tatters, and his body is a mess of unmended wounds. Explain yourself, Archon, Arundel growls, or I'll strip the flesh from your bones. Eden would say anything to save her own skin, Adeline says. You know this as well as I do. But when others begin to come forward to confirm my suspicions about your history with the Anarch, I knew that she was telling the truth. You think back to your interview with the Archon, where you told her what you learned about Arundel and Watt's roommate history. You hope that she doesn't list you as one of her sources. You have a bad feeling that you know where all this is heading. Briar, she says, pointing a finger toward you. Shit. Come forward. You were responsible for returning your prince from his imprisonment. You dug him out of a hole once, and I present you with the opportunity to dig him out yet again. You don't have to do this, Briar, Luca says. Hell with her. I don't think I'm getting away that easily, you reply. There's no way to run. You step forward awkwardly, the crowd parting around you, leaving you wide open. What do you want me to do? She pulls a curved saber from its sheath at her belt and hands it to you. This weapon has been ushered dozens of vampires to their final deaths, she says. Its blade is said to be enchanted by ancient magics to be deadly against our kind. She kicks Ward's feet from under him, and he falls to his knees. He doesn't even cry out. Whatever it is that the Archon did to him, it's left him nearly catatonic. And his suffering, and we can all go home, Adeline says. Order, we have returned to Ottawa, and my job here will be finished, she smirks. I'll even conveniently forget what happened to Prince Annabelle. Yes, I know about that too, Arundel. Compliance is your only option. The prince watches every movement as you consider the weight of the saber in your hands, his eyes betraying his dread. You don't have long to waver at the edge of precipice. No, I'm not. This is so hard. If I kill Ward, everyone's gonna be pissed. But I'm definitely not gonna attack the Archon. But if I don't kill Ward, I think they'll be pissed too. Bye-bye, Ward. There is no argument to be had with an Archon, and you know it. If Arundel didn't speak out, how could you possibly hope to affect the situation? That is, if you even want to. Perhaps getting everything back to normal is the best option here. You wait, watching Arundel, hoping that he'll tell you to hold back anything, the slightest word, nothing. Perhaps he still hasn't fully forgiven Ward for leaving, or maybe it just comes down to self-preservation. At every kindred's core lurks a monster that only cares about itself. If that monster is forced to choose between the survival of an ally or their future being destroyed, they will always choose the path of self-interest, even if they never admit it to themselves. You raise the saber high as the other kindred watch, entranced, and bring it down on the back of Ward's neck. The decapitation is so effortless that for a moment you genuinely think you missed the target, but then Ward's head falls lazily from his shoulders and rolls down his chest to the floor. Arundel stares at the body as it slowly turns into fine dust, and you can tell that it's taking every sliver of his will to keep himself from tearing Adeline in half. Excellent, the Archon says as she takes the saber back. As expected. She inclines her head slightly to Arundel and then purposely turns her back, slowly leaving by the large door on the other side of the room. Arundel seems to reset himself, suddenly realizing there's an entire room of witnesses before him, just waiting to lunge at any perceived weakness. His face and voice harden. There is no room for softness in the Prince of Ottawa. Our business has concluded, Arundel announced. The Iraq threat is over, and I've returned to my seat as your prince. Do I have any objections? No one speaks. You could hear a pin drop. Good. This council is adjourned. Most kindred leave quietly, while some others mutter to themselves about insanity and the end of times. Come now, Briar, Arundel says, and you as well, Luca. I'll be needing your talents. You follow him out through a small locked door into a back room filled with a squad of heavily armed mortals in riot gear. You've earned an official place by my side, Briar. Proven yourself loyal. Shadow swirls in the corner of the room, and Kashif materializes, watching you intently. You're surprised to see that he survived, but his alliance with the restored prince makes sense. There are few places where Banu Hakim in these nights in Ottawa. Why is this? Why were they waiting back here? Arundel crosses his arms. Last night, I spent a great amount of my social capital tracking down information on Adeline's allies. We're gonna pay them a visit. He smiles dryly. It's gonna be a bloodbath. For so many. Does he not care that I just murdered his friend? Arundel's war against the Archon allies raged for weeks as his forces burned down safe houses and rooted out moles in the local police department. Adeline had dug in deeper than anyone imagined, whether by the order of her shadowy superiors or for her own personal gain is impossible to say. You were really destroyed when several mortal fanatics set their own apartment on fire in an effort to slow you down. If not for Kashif's timely rescue, you might be nothing but ashes now. His efforts left him gravely wounded from the flames, and you spent several nights looking in on him while he recovered. The very least you could do was make sure he wasn't ambushed, as his body slowly mended the burns. Arundel is relentless in his pursuit. He spares no expenses as he scours Ottawa of his enemies' influence. Mercenaries, advanced weaponry, even the occasional civilian casualties are just a price to pay. He only slows down and starts to think more calmly once you join with Key to speak with him about the alarming escalation of his vendetta. It progresses slower and more tactically from then on, but you can tell that he's getting closer. The walls are closing in, and very soon Adeline will be forced to either fight or flee. Eventually, Arendel's forces tracked the Archon to the Canadian Cold War Museum, a massive bunker on the outskirts of the city that supposedly been under renovations for the last 6 months. He orders a strike team to gather for the final hit. Once you arrive, you are surprised to see that 𝑙urk numbers among the ranks of the prince's most trusted allies. Even Kashif is there, fully recovered and ready to fight by his prince's side once again. I couldn't stay on the Corliss' shadow forever, 𝑙urk says. If you manage to prove yourself, then so can I. Neither of you were responsible for Corliss' actions, Key says. Prove your loyalty and your future will be secure, 𝑙urk. You have my word as sheriff. You see Jordan waving from closer to the bunker's entrance, up among the ranks of Arendel's well-armed mercenaries. She rushed over to join you. This is it, Briar. This is where she's hiding. I can feel it. A vision, Jordan? Key asks. Jordan shakes her head. Not quite. I haven't had them since Ward was destroyed. Our future is in flux. But this, she points toward the bunker, this is real. The thick smoke stings your eyes as you watch Adeline stumble backward through the bunker's mechanical room. She is surrounded by the corpses of her newly dead allies. They hadn't been able to put up much of a fight. Arendel's relentless assaults had whittled her support down to bare bones, but still she hadn't fled. She was so sure of herself, of her power, but now there is true fear showing on her face. You'll bring down hell upon Ottawa if you go through with this, Arendelle, she yells as her back brushes up against cold concrete. The wall's red paint is peeling, and in the dim light it's impossible to tell where the blood ends and paint begins. Destroy me, and every one of you will be snuffed out. And what makes you think I'll be destroying you tonight, Miss Durand? Arendelle asks. Then what was this all about? She asks, cautiously optimistic. A show of force. Hardly. He races forward almost faster than your eye can track him, a thick stake clutched in his left hand. You move to help, but Kiro holds up his arm, blocking your movement. He wanted this to himself, Key says. I didn't approve, but it's his choice as prince. The blood debt is personal. I understand. Ward was special. It's not the best tactic, Key says. But yes, he deserves his chance at revenge. I trust that he knows what he's doing. An animal howl echoes off the walls and exposed piping of the bunker's mechanical room as Arendelle pins Adeline to the ground and grinds the tip of the stake into her chest. When I get free, you'll never be free, Adeline. The prince interrupts her as he slams his palm down on the stake, driving it between her ribs and paralyzing her mid-sentence. He steps off her prone corpse, wiping his suit clean as his mercenaries rush in to pick up the body. Bring her to the holding cells in Eden's old office building, the ones with the warded doors. You're not destroying her, 𝑙urk asks as she uses a cloth to clean a smattering of blood from her cheek. The way down here might not have been incredibly difficult, but it had resulted in its fair share of casualties. Why waste such a valuable resource? Arendelle says. The work beneath my villa was destroyed, but imagine what I can learn from a mind of a kindred as powerful as this so-called Archon. I may be able to delay the beckoning indefinitely, postpone the call to the east that plagues us elders to distraction. Imagine that, 𝑙urk. Imagine the power our domain would have if we alone possessed the ability to hold back the call. Elders would line up to vow fealty. And if she's a true Archon, he asks, what then? Her masters will send more when she doesn't report back. Adeline was never sent for me, Arendelle says. If she is who she says she is, then she was sent to stop Robert's breaches of the masquerade. As far as they know, Adeline and the Arachnarchs destroy each other. Archons are tools to their masters, and if Adeline served her purpose, they'll believe she's well spent. It's risky, Key says. Arendelle sniffs. It's done. You knew our intentions here. I'll divert resources to your anti-terrorism forces in case there's an investigation. Would that be sufficient? It would have to be, he says. Good. Now let's be gone from this place. Over the next several months, 𝑙urk works to reform and rebuild the flock of St. Anthony of Padua, purging the church once and for all of Father Moretti's influence. It turns out the false priest's control had spread much deeper than either of you originally expected. Ghoul zealots return regularly to terrorize and attempt to convert the returning mortal flock as they fall into the madness of voluntary withdrawal one by one. Fortunately, the parishioners have a guardian angel on their side, where the 𝑙urk is oblivious to the irony of a damned vampire protecting a church devoted to worshipping the Christian God, or if she chooses purposely to ignore it, is up for you to say. A part of you wonders how the dark desire inherent in all kindred is subtly twisting her designs. You resolve to watch events carefully, lest she turn into her own version of Moretti, corrupting her own flock simply by association. A vampire must always be wary of the beast within. The two of you spend several nights together, engaged in distracting leisure activities as the city's kindred community simmers down into a state of relative calm. Over that time, you get to know each other on a more personal level than it was possible during your first desperate fling, begun at a time where any night could be your last. And as a result, you grow closer, and you find yourself spending several days a week sleeping beside her. You both keep to your own personal havens. A vampire needs her own personal space after all. But that doesn't stop either of you from visiting regularly as the relationship grows older and more comfortable. Such companionship is genuine pleasure you've not experienced in your decades of unlife. The prevailing wisdom suggests that close relationships among kindred are doomed to failure, but you simply cannot see how that is possible. Maybe you're as blind to its inevitability as Luca is to the true nature of her support for the church. But now you just don't care. For now, you revel in the contentment you find in a slice of normality. The playful spark behind her eyes when she watches you from across the room, the growing familiarity of her nightly routines. Okay, wait, I need all of it. I breathed in air and it's like hitting my throat uncomfortably. The growing familiarity of her nightly routines and idiosyncrasies, the simple joy that her touch brings, not to mention the rush of a shared hunt. Yes, you would do anything to please her. You can feel it in your blood. The sheriff's relationship with Arundel seems to change with time. No longer so subservient as he had once been, Key's role in Ottawa's politics grows more important by the week, and before long, he's not only running the city police, but a full anti-terrorism task force as well. The court watches him closely, some concern that he's accumulating too much power too fast, but for now, no one seems willing to step into the ring against him. Vivian Mayer maintains a distance from the court, tending to her much-neglected mortal politicians and the businesses she keeps firmly under her thumbs. It's impossible not to notice how the media coverage has changed since she reasserted control. Any mention of potential kindred activity has been scrubbed clean from any and all Canadian broadcast experts, from the CBC to CTV. A rumor surfaces that she presided over her own crucifixion, and the information spreads before Arundel can put a lid on it. You're not sure if it's true or not, but it certainly seems to be making certain kindred elite uncomfortable. Luca works closely with Arundel's inner circle, functioning in his office much the same as you once did for Corliss. It's not technically a position of honor, but it's a step up for her. And you know that Luca is always happy when climbing the corporate ladder. One night, she knocks on your door. She's been instructed to escort you to the prince's office. It sounds urgent, but she claims to have no knowledge of the reasoning behind the summons. Even knowing the integral part you played in restoring Arundel to his office, it's still somehow nerve-wracking to be called before him without the real reason why. You school yourself to calmness and follow her. When you reach the door, she gives your hand a quick squeeze. She knows that you're worried and wants to comfort you, but Arundel's will must be done and he won't be kept waiting. Comfort can wait for after. Welcome, Briar, Arundel says as Luca walks out and closes the door behind you. I've brought you here to discuss your future. Have a seat. You settle down in the plush chair directly from his desk. You were wondering what his intentions might be for you. A job alongside Luca in his administration, perhaps. You have the experience, but the thought of going back to all that paperwork feels dreadfully dull. What can I do for you, sir? You ask. Best not to make any assumptions. Arundel leans forward in his chair, fingers steepled as he looks over them at you. I've given this a great deal of thought, he says. This business with Eden has left my administration wanting. Cleaning house has left me in a rather awkward position of not having a seneschal in my court. Your eyes widen. He can't mean. No one else in this city has shown me loyalty to rival your own. Few are the kindred who would have chosen to stand against Eden in an attempt to bring back your rightful prince. Luca meant well, but she was always her sire's creature. You, on the other hand, belong by my side. Some have said you are too young and inexperienced, but I have seen elders balk at half the trials you've undergone during these last few months. You've exceeded each and every one of my expectations. He's really gonna do it. You can barely believe what you're hearing. I hereby raise you to be my seneschal. It's not a question. He's not looking for your permission. It's done. Just like that. Whether you want the job or not, it's been handed to you, and you have little choice but to take it. To do so otherwise would be grievous offense. Thank you, Prince Arundel, you say. I also plan to speak with your associate, Miss Tremblay. Jordan will serve under my rule as well, not in a similar position of power, of course, but I believe there are maybe more to her visions than what I initially believed. Yesterday night she came to me with a particularly disturbing augury of the future, a war with Adeline's supporters, come to avenge their Archon. I was skeptical at first, but when I reached out to my contacts in the US, many of the specifics were corroborated. If we are to survive the coming storm, we must work as a team. Arundel stands up and reaches out a hand. You take it. The handshake is firm and feels binding somehow. Are you ready to begin? And we did it! We finished the game! We did it! Yippee! No thank you. Thank you. No thank you. But we did it! Yay! Took a lot of reading, but we finally did it. And then we became seneschal. That's basically vice president, guys. We became vice president of the vampires. Nice. Anyway, gotta go. Drink more. Hydrating time. But yeah, I'll see you guys. Wait, is anyone live? Is anyone live? Let me see if I can raid anybody. I don't know how many people are still watching. Okay, Masaki Rina is alive. We'll send you guys to Masaki Rina if you guys are still here. Okay, hold on. Let me send you guys to Masaki Rina. Cause she raided me like once, so now I'm like, yeah, let's raid her. She's nice. Yeah. All right. Get ready for raid. Bye, guys. Thank you for coming.